Home to Liverpool next. That's live here on talkSPORT on Monday evening. Meanwhile, Aston Villa winger Leon Bailey's joined Roma on a season-long loan. There's an option to buy for 19 million. All the latest at talksport.com. Now, it's been called the worst defensive performance since Southampton went for Brentford 12 months ago.
The first goal in particular is a horrendous error. The second goal, shocking defensively. Shocking defensively.
Ali McCoy says Rangers look miles off it. They conceded 3 first-half goals at home to Club Brugge in the Champions League playoffs. It ended 3-1. Russell Martin still believes.
Fans are so entitled to their opinion. They are the most important people at the football club. And in the second half, I'll say it again, they were fantastic. Really, really top. And the team is going to need them.
Now, Peter Shilton's world appearance record has finally gone out in Brazil. Fluminense goalkeeper Fabio has played 1,391 competitive games. And Rees-Zammit's told talkSPORT his talents were wasted in the NFL.
Unless you go through the college system, it's even harder. So I've had a whirlwind of the past couple of weeks and, I'm just so excited to get back.
Rees-Zammit says playing for Bristol Bears means he can live back home in Wales. You can watch the whole interview at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Could we see more councils trying to shut down migrant hotels? And inflation's gone up again, and it's more than expected. Amelia has more at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Today it's raining tyres in our centres, including top-notch brands like Pirelli. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
Scotland and Northern Ireland bright with sunny spells. England and Wales brightening up. Cool and breezy along North Sea coasts.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy, and we're live in talkSPORT. So, a trading of statements between Isak and Newcastle as both parties make their stance publicly clear. What next? Who is more likely to be forced into a climb down? Meantime, an early collapse at home to Club Brugge sees Rangers Champions League hopes fade. Is Russell Martin's tenure really in danger of folding before it's truly begun? Also today, with the right mindset, can football's pecking order be challenged? Should you fear failure in sport? Will FIFA pursue neutrality? And 1 month out from the Ryder Cup, should captains be in the business of picking themselves? Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy, we're all live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement.
Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Can I just set the scene? Only Lord Simon Jordan could come in as Danny and I are preparing for the show and spray around some very expensive aftershave saying things like, try this. Now, it's magnificent. Only you can do that.
The smell of Adam Brazil's butt, isn't it?
I don't know if you got a scoosh, Danny, did you? Beautiful
like
stuff.
it, yeah. I mean, he always smells good, but that's a new one. Quite like that one.
Oh.
Thanks, Dan.
Simon, that is what I cannot wait to go home and
Tell
go
a
to
lot.
bed with myself.
Tell a lot by a man's scent.
Very much so. Danny, good morning.
Good morning.
We have a lot to get through this morning. Before we go any further, though, in the world of golf, 2 words, Scotty Scheffler.
It's just incredible what that man's doing.
Incredible, isn't it? Amazing.
It's just a pleasure to watch someone so good at what they do. But it's his demeanour that seems to be so impressive, how calm he is in the big moments. But I felt for your man, Bob, the Scottish boy.
How good is Bob McIntyre?
I love him.
Love him.
He's unapologetically himself, isn't he?
Yeah.
Brilliant competitor, talented golfer. Doesn't give a monkeys what anyone thinks.
Exactly.
Plays his
Simon
game.
Jordan we're talking about, couldn't it? Unapologetically
It's quite a good
himself.
trait. I think if someone's got that strength of character, it goes a long way.
Strength of character. I wonder what the strength of character Alexander Isak is feeling this morning. Simon, you'll have seen the developments on this overnight. This is right up your street, so we may as well
You'll have stayed awake waiting for them, probably.
Oh, yes, probably. We may as well let loose on this now. A trading of statements between Alexander Isak and Newcastle. Isak, of course, is saying that's it for him. I'm out of this football club and I'm moving on. But he's saying it for a reason. But we hadn't heard from Isak until now. So then a statement came through last night. And Alexander Isak, of course, the subject of a, so far, £110 million bid from Liverpool. But that's as far as it's gone. And at the moment, Isak is still a Newcastle United player, and Liverpool, as far as we understand, haven't come back in with another offer that would be more than 110 million and might suggest that might do it. That hasn't happened yet. An Isak statement last night: when promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. And then he goes on, I've kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken. That silence has allowed people to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what was really said and agreed behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made, and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interest of everyone, not just myself. So we took a huge sigh of relief that we'd heard from Isak at last, but before we could adjust ourselves, Newcastle were in with a statement of their own. We're disappointed to have been alerted to a social media post by Alexander Isak this evening. We are clear in response that Alex remains under contract and that no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer. And then they go on. We've been clear that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. We do not foresee those conditions being met. This is a proud football club with proud traditions, and we strive to retain our family feel. Alex remains part of our family and will be welcomed back when he is ready to rejoin his teammates. So at the moment, it's checkmate. No one's budging. Just before we came on air, I get in touch with a gentleman by the name of Vlado Lemic, who is Isak's agent. And at the moment, he says he apologises, but he has nothing to say. Maybe one day we can have a coffee together and speak. Well, maybe we can, Mr. Lemic. Simon, who is more likely to be forced from their position here? Isak or Newcastle?
Or Liverpool, to meet Newcastle's conditions of sale. I mean, it's very clear Newcastle have established their position. I mean, Isak's interpretation of conversations, I don't doubt that Isak has verbalised for his delightful agent, who seems to have lots to say when he's back channeling, but not anything to say directly when he might be held accountable for what comes out of his trap. He's had lots to say about what Newcastle should. I don't recall Newcastle saying very much, so I don't quite understand what Alexander Isak is referring to in terms of people filling the vacuum. It's been filled by people like the newspapers being given stories, I suspect, by his agent. So I suspect that the reality of what's being said in terms of I've not had my say or I've not spoken and others have filled the air is nonsense, because it's his people that have been filling the air. I don't doubt that.
It's a mix of people.
I don't doubt. Yeah, but I mean, it's coming from somewhere. Whether it was Craig Hope,
but there's two sides to it, isn't there? There's been some good press, bad press. I think what he's saying, I think my version of what I'm interpreting is what he's saying. There's been a lot of stuff said out there without the facts, and that's why I'm speaking, which I think is good that he's spoken.
Well, yeah, possibly. I mean, speaking for a social media post and suggesting that people clearly understand your position. I don't doubt that Newcastle have understood that Alexander Isak would like to leave Newcastle if a very big football club comes in. What I would imagine is not clear and has never been said and has never would be named as to who it was said by, because that's very. If you have the balls to turn around and say, I was told by name the person specifically and explicitly who told you that irrespective of conditions, you can leave when it suits you. You can leave when another football comes. He won't do it. He can't do it. And I doubt that you'll ever see the light of it. And I hope that he can point his finger at somebody and make somebody accountable. But Newcastle's statement, not just because I'm a former club owner, is probably more likely to be the position as it is, which is, we'll welcome him back. I'd be finding the backside of him, quite frankly. But the idea that Newcastle have agreed something. These players are running around now, whenever they don't get what they want, turning around and saying, well, I understood this. I had a gentleman's agreement for that. I was given an assurance of that, right? So in future, what you can do is no longer rely on a contract. You can write it down on a napkin and just turn around, not even write it down, to say, here's what I think we'll understand going forward. No, they wouldn't have that, Jim. They wouldn't say, oh, my contract, my bonuses, my weekly salary, my goal bonus, my loyalty bonus, my son. We all do it on understanding, shall we? It's nonsense.
Right, so
if
when promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue.
Well,
do you believe any promise was made
to
Isak?
I think there was an understanding from Newcastle that his player would prefer to leave if someone like Liverpool come in. I don't doubt that the agent has verbalised that. If you're an agent and a club official sits in front of you and he says, look, OK, I'll give you an implicit understanding that if something comes along, we'll agree to it. Put it in writing. Put it as an addendum to the contract, put it in writing. Confirm this conversation that we've had, put it in writing. Well, I want it as a gentleman's agreement. Well, the gentleman's agreement isn't going to be worth very much, is it? Because realistically speaking, I'd rather not add to the contract. I'd rather you just drop me a note, a line, understanding the conversation that we just had. This conversation will be kept between us and only ever brought out in the instance that you don't stick to your word. The reasons why that hasn't happened is because it didn't happen.
There is also a chance, maybe not a big one, that he could have had a conversation with the manager about beginning of last season. It could have been like, look, give us another season. I know you, because he's saying in that statement they've known my situation for a long time. That to me says last summer.
Yeah, but Danny, a conversation's different to a promise.
Correct.
Isak is saying
but
when promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue.
Yeah, that's true, and I think some of Simon's points are very valid. But I do know situations in the past that I've been in where players and managers have spoken.
But that's a very different dynamic. Everyone understands. Alex Gross made a big song and dance, and rightly so, about knowing this situation since February, March. He's understood it, and other journalists have been writing about it since then. So it's been implicitly understood. And Newcastle aren't tin-eared. They will have known that the player will have eyes for bigger opportunities. But that's a very different dynamic than saying, we understand your position, we will let you go if Liverpool come in and bid whatever they bloody will feel like. That's a very different understanding.
Simon, Newcastle say no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer. Is that the bit you believe?
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely believe that conversations have been had, maybe with the agent or perhaps even with the manager, to suggest, given the fact that we've had this rumour going for nearly 6 months now about this player's future, that they have indicated at some point, if a big club like Liverpool comes in or Manchester United comes in, which we know they might do, we would like to leave for that club. And I pretty much could understand from Newcastle's point of view, OK, if that happens, we'll hear it when it comes.
Answer me this.
That's not a promise.
Why would Isak lie?
Because it suits him. Well,
he's not lying.
What he's doing, he's adapting what he believes he's heard.
Truth, yeah.
What he's doing is manipulating it around to the circumstances to convince himself and those around him that he's got justification for his actions.
There's actually nobody other than the whoever owns the club, who's in charge of the club, who could promise him anything anyway. There's a difference between, like, you hit it on the nail on the head. Different someone giving you a word or an agreement, but without a promise. The reality is this. If it doesn't happen, and we don't really know how the Saudi owners have not been in long enough to know how they adapt to situations like this, but probably very stubborn because they don't care about, they've got so much money. But I don't worry about, if Isak stays, which it looks more likely than not for me at the moment, I don't think his hurdle is with the other players in the group. They'll be fine. The hurdle is overcoming the fans because they've already started chanting.
Is Isak naive to have gone balls out, excuse the phrase, on a gentleman's agreement?
Yeah.
Because he's out there now.
But he hasn't got one. And he's being engineered into a position by his agents. And
we don't know that for sure.
Guaranteed. Yeah. Absolutely 100%.
Well, no, he'll want to go. He'll want to go.
He'll want to go, absolutely.
Did you ever make a promise to a player at Palace?
No. Yeah, to Andy Johnson. I gave him an undertaking that I would absolutely do this. I got him to sign a new contract, and if in a year's time we hadn't got promoted, then I would allow him to be sold to another football club.
So there you go, it does happen.
But did you give him an amount?
I gave him a pay rise. I gave him
an amount on the fee, because you could have said no, a year later. Well,
no, I said
for 40 million.
I said I'll sell you for a market price. That's fair and representative.
And what was the end game of it all?
That I sold him for less than I could get for him from another football club because he wanted to go to the football club that I'd agreed to let him go to.
Everton, wasn't it?
Everton.
But you won the day.
No, it was an equity. No, I didn't win the day because we didn't get promoted, and the aim of keeping him wasn't fulfilled. But the idea that we've got a situation, if this player, I don't understand it. If you are prepared to say that an official, name him.
Yeah.
Name.
He might have to now.
Yeah. Name him. And that's when you'll hear silence, because when the person gets named, if indeed they do, they'll give you the version of events that will probably be a lot more likely to be nearer the truth. What they're deliberately choosing to do is interpret a conversation that they probably engineered, that they tried to curate, that they've taken their own understanding away from, which is completely different from the understanding of the person that might have said, we'll look at it when the time comes.
If you are
now turning that into a set of assurances, nonsense.
Yeah, if you are a player, sometimes you do have to kick up to get out. That's happened to me. It's happened to loads of players I know. But I think over time, in God knows how many years, he'll look back at this and think, I wish I dealt with it differently.
But he can get out. But Liverpool don't want to pay the price. Liverpool, we value him 110
I think Liverpool...
Who cares what you value him at?
I think Newcastle would have let him go for around the 120 if they got someone in.
They might have done.
That's where we're at the moment. And Isak's agent, just before we came on air, is saying, I have nothing to say.
Except when I'm talking to someone that perhaps is a little bit easier to talk to.
Where does it go from here? When promises are broken, says Isak, and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. What promises? And to who? Meantime, Newcastle say that they never made a commitment that he can leave the football club. Where does this go from here? Newcastle fans, you must be thoroughly demented by this. And Monday fast approaches because Liverpool play Newcastle on Monday, and it's live in talkSPORT. Give us a call now that we've heard from both parties and tell us where you're at with all of this. 03717 223344 81089. morning, everybody. Wednesday, August the 20th, the day the switchboard really went into meltdown. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. We are live on talkSPORT. We haven't even got around to events at Ibrox last night. Rangers up against Club Brugge. You heard from the former Zulte Waregem manager, Frankie Jury, yesterday. Watch Bruges. My God, he was right. They absolutely ripped Rangers apart. Is Russell Martin's tenure really in danger of folding before it's truly begun? We've still got that to look at, that and a whole lot more. We'll hear from the boxer Josh Buatsi later on this morning as well. But at the moment, we've parked our tanks on the lawns of Alexander Isak and Newcastle United. Alexander Isak, we know that he's saying, no, forget it. I don't wish to be reintegrated into the Newcastle squad. I'm out of here. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue, he said in a statement last night. We've been waiting to hear from him, and then it came along. Newcastle hit back. Not true. No commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer. So where does it go from here? Isak and the promises. What promises? And to whom? And Newcastle? No. They never made a commitment when they said that he could leave. They've never said that he can leave. So at the moment, it's stalemate. Where does it go from here? Simon has a very strong view in it. So too does Danny. Danny, do you think that that this is it? It's crunch time now, and that he doesn't play for them again? Is that your train of thought?
No, if I was betting, which I wouldn't, I think it looks more likely he's going to stay and Newcastle are going to dig in.
Or you think he'll stay?
Yeah. I think it looks more that way mainly because they haven't got a replacement. Because I think if they had got Shesko when we went to United instead of them, maybe they would have contemplated Liverpool's bid. But I don't see Liverpool, even if Liverpool go up a bit, I don't see how Newcastle can let him go when they've got nobody to play centre forward. It's just simple
numbers. So even in spite of this statement, you think it's still time and it still could be on that Isak could find a way of reintegrating into the Newcastle United?
Well, what's he going to do? He's got his World Cup year. He's got to keep playing anyway to keep the interest up in him if he goes next summer. What choice have you got? You got to play football. Even if you have to apologise, you have to hold your hands up, whatever it is, he's got to play football.
Simon, would you be on the blower to Vlado Lemic, his agent, this morning?
Not if I could help it, no.
I mean, this is the kind of thing that thoroughly disgusts you, doesn't it? An impasse like this in football.
No, it doesn't disgust me. I think it's a commercial reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets amped up because it gives lots of legs and lots of content for people like ourselves. But behind the scenes, it'll be less hysterical. There'll be less of what we are ruminating over, and there will be an outcome. I mean, what I get despondent about, and not despondent but irritated about, is I get tired of people like the union taking lots of money out of football as a result of football's contributions to it, and yet never condemning this sort of behaviour, because contracts actually do mean something. We're talking about something. So you've got an asset that's being paid £6 million a year. They've paid 30 million quid to buy. 60 million pound to buy. Is that what it cost them? So they've got a £60 million asset. Right, we've got a 3-year contract left in it, and we're having this discussion about a gentleman's agreement, and people are actually believing it. People listen to, broken promises. You get idiots like Jamie O'Hara going on Sky saying broken promises have been made. Nonsense. Everybody in the real world knows that if an undertaking were given by a football club to a player that they were prepared to engage in a discussion allowing him to be sold, that it would be documented properly in the same way that his contract was documented. You're not sitting there with these supreme athletes that are getting paid enormous amounts of money with big contracts, knowing the marketplace as you do go, and saying things that are not substantial. It doesn't happen.
Isn't it naive, though, to think that the union are going to come out and condemn their own players? No, it's a bit like you were talking the other day.
It's naive. It's not naive. It's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
And it's morally bankrupt, because they'll be the first ones to come out and tell you what happens to a player when it's not in their opinion right, but they'll be the last ones to turn around and say, condemn their own union's members.
Yeah, if they forced him. There's something of a vacuum of leadership at Newcastle. Does this statement from Newcastle change your view in that?
Well, I think it's a necessary evil to serve a greater good. Of course, there's a vacuum of leadership. This situation has been allowed to get away from them. It's been allowed to turn into, a circus and a carnival of horrors.
I also think, Jim, as well, just quickly, we were talking before the show, I also think, and I know Simon's not a big fan of agents, but good agents don't let this situation happen. The best agents get the deals done quietly, discreetly, firm hand, with good negotiating and find a solution for all, generally.
Well, it depends what you think a good version of an agent is. I mean, I remember...
Well, someone who gets a good deal
Ferguson
done without...
throwing Riola off the training ground and thinking he was a devil incarnate, which is a view I happen to share.
Well, that's all right,
then. The fact whether he's no longer with us. So, but you would say he's a good agent because he's achieved outcomes for his player. And to some extent, it depends what you think a good agent looks like.
Well, I mean, an agent who isn't pushing you to cause World War III and trying to find solutions for you and keep your best interests at heart without putting you in the line of fire. You know, somebody who's not saying to you, put that in, do this, and making you look bad for the potential of having to stay. And I think I've had experiences on a lesser level, of course. And this is a huge transfer with a big.
But you had grown-ups like Neil Fewings around you that make outcomes work better for everybody.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. And I know other guys as well, bigger players than me, who've had some good advice when they wanted to go rogue and actually said, hold on, let's just...
But before we go to the call, Simon, are we naive to think that a club official at a top club like Newcastle United might just have reneged on a deal? Something that was said in the passing verbally that now it's suitable for that individual to forget that comment was made?
Well, who is it? Because if someone has made that observation and made it clear, then I'd be very, very... Okay, we can use naivety as a word. I'd be very, very surprised that someone in significant authority has illustrated to a player that irrespective of the conditions of the circumstances, that he can go as he pleases. Because that's what we're saying here. I think Newcastle, despite not being explicit, and I don't even know if Liverpool made a formal bid, but I think Newcastle have been reluctant to sell, but will sell on conditions that even in their own statement, that they define. Now, there's nothing wrong with that position, and I'm suspecting that at some point they might have had that conversation with Alexander Isak. Now, what the interpretation is, what Alexander Isak and Liverpool and Alexander Isak's agent want to do is they want to define the conditions that he's sold under, and if those conditions aren't to their liking, i.e. that Newcastle want more money than they think they should be being sold for, then they'll consider that to be a renege of some spurious agreement that might have been had in a very loose conversation about, we accept that if you want to leave to a bigger football club, we will talk to that bigger football club and try and agree a deal. That is not the same as you can go and do as you want.
But what if someone said to him, look, if someone comes in for more than 100 million next summer, you can go? What if someone said that?
Oh, then Isak would have a case.
Okay, absolutely.
But you think that Isak and his agent,
but actually,
Vlado Lemic, who got in touch with me just before I came on air, saying he's got nothing to say, you think they're twisting the truth?
I think that if you're in a position where you've got a massive asset like this and you're sitting down in a conversation, why wouldn't you ask somebody from a football club to put that in writing and understand that will never see the light of day unless somebody's prepared to breach what they've said to them in an agreement that they're now relying on.
But when Newcastle say no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave this summer, it's not out with the realms of possibility that club official is no longer there, right?
Paul Mitchell, you mean? Possibly.
Well, Amanda Staveley.
Sure, but she wasn't.
Darren Eales.
They're talking about 6 months ago, aren't they? So Amanda Staveley wasn't there.
There's been a bunch of change.
Yeah, but she wasn't there. She's not been there for some time. And so...
This will be from last summer.
But that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant whether they're not. He said no Newcastle official.
Yeah.
Not no previous Newcastle official or no new official that's present. No Newcastle official means no Newcastle official.
Okay, we have a queue of callers, the length of London Bridge out there. We're going to start taking calls the other side of 10:30. Thanks to all of you who are getting in touch in such big numbers this morning. And we'll ask you straight, prepare you for it. Who is more likely to be forced into a climb down? Isak and his agent or Newcastle United? 03717 223344 81089.
Over the last few years, Formula One has gone from elitist and insular to a global entertainment brand. The transformation's down to American investment group Liberty Media, who cultivated a new image for the sport since buying it in 2016. Better access to drivers, improved content on social media and tapping into the US market have given F1 a massive boost in both attention and revenues. But is everyone happy? The fans certainly are, as evidenced by Drive to Survive. Almost 7 million people per season have tuned in to get all the gossip and all the drama from the paddock. The extra exposure means the drivers can demand a higher salary too. In 2010, the top drivers were earning $20 million a year, which isn't bad. But now, the very best earned 3 times that, with Max Verstappen getting a whopping $65 million in 2025. But money doesn't always buy happiness. Some drivers, including Verstappen, don't like the pageantry the changes have brought about. In Las Vegas in 2023, Verstappen said the drivers were made to look like clowns, and the event was 99% performance and 1% race. Some purists who still watch the sport feel the same, and that the spirit of competition has suffered. But Formula One and Liberty Media don't look like slowing down anytime soon. So expect more races, major events and exclusive access in future.
Good morning, everybody. Wednesday, August the 20th. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy. We're live on talkSPORT. And as always, we are coming live on YouTube and your smart TV. And so many of you are now watching the show as well as listening to it. And that's fine by us. For all the information on how to watch the show, just head to talksport.com/watch. I wonder if Alexander Isak and his agent are watching. I wonder if Newcastle are watching. I'm pretty sure they'll be listening. That is for sure, because now a bit of an impasse between Isak and his club. Isak came out with a statement. The reality is that promises were made. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. From Newcastle, not so. No commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer. Where does it go from here? Who is it more likely to be forced into a climb down? Isak and the agent, or Newcastle United? So many of you getting in touch. Let's kick off with Rich, who's a big Newcastle fan. Rich, good morning. Where do you go from here? What's your thought?
Morning, gents. My thought is that Isak's going to have to climb down eventually from the plinth his agent's pat him on. I think his agent has promised him that he can get him this move to Liverpool, and it's completely gone the wrong way they thought it would happen. I think they thought Newcastle would end up bowing down to the first team that bids over £100 million. Newcastle stood their ground, and I think come September the 1st, he's going to have to sit down with Eddie Howe and try and make amends with the squad and with him first of all. And I heard Danny say earlier on the fans might be a struggle to get back on side. If he starts scoring goals again, all the fans will start loving him again. We're all fickle, aren't we, really?
Really? You'd forgive him right away if he starts banging them in again for you?
Not right away, but all he can do is turn up, perform well for Newcastle, start scoring goals, and really, if he does that, there's not much more you can ask of him. You can't ask him, you don't want him to go on his hands and knees and start begging for forgiveness. All he can do is get onto St James's Park and start scoring goals again.
Okay. All right, Rich, listen, thanks for the call. Dan, another Newcastle fan. Do you expect to see him back in Newcastle colours, Dan?
as much as I'd like him to be, yeah, I would. But obviously, with everything that he's done, if he'd have gone about it the right way and he turned around and said, look, instead of like going on, not on strike, but not like turning up to pre-season, playing in friendlies, if he had come out and said, look, I'd like to leave this summer when the timing is right and the right offer, then yeah, I'd say I wouldn't have an issue with it. It's just really hard now for him to kind of come back from this. I respect like all players, all fans, all that kind of thing, but it's kind of hard to really respect someone who's not turned up to work. We pay our hard-earned money to come and watch the team, watch a player. Like some people have their favourite players. Like, I mean, Isak's one of my favourites. I'm sure it's many other Newcastle fans. And when you pay your hard-earned money to turn up and he's not there,
yeah,
you know what I mean, especially when you go abroad, like go to Korea where we went to. There's like fans out there who've, you know what I mean, don't get to see Newcastle. You know what I mean, maybe once in their lifetime. And that
Dan, before you leave us, Isak says when promises are broken, trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. Newcastle say no commitment's ever been made by a club official that he can leave the club in the summer. Who do you believe?
I mean, I'm a Newcastle fan, so I mean, I would believe like Newcastle because that's my team. I mean, Isak's a hero because he scored the winning goal for us in the League Cup. But I love Newcastle more than I love Isak. If you know what I mean.
Okay, I'm with you, Dan. Thanks for that.
Jim, it actually doesn't matter who's right or wrong, really, because it's not the contract's the contract. Somebody giving him some reassurances.
I think who's right and who's wrong is.
Do you know what? Just a quick one. Do you know what I can't understand? I don't get this bit.
The morality side of the argument is making.
Yeah, but the bit I don't understand is where the only person who really suffers when you don't train with the group or playing friendlies and keep yourself fit is Isak, because even if he leaves, he wants to be fit and raring to go, and if he stays, he wants to play and be fit. You don't not train. The only time I've ever not trained in a group, and I was told not to, that you can't do anything about because the manager's in charge. You have to do as you're told. But I was more than willing to keep trying to train and stay and keep myself right because you've got to as a footballer. So I don't understand that part of it.
Simon, a lot of people getting in touch, asking me to ask you straight, is this a straight breach of contract?
Yeah, it is, yeah. From Isak.
Well, it depends.
Yeah. Well,
it depends.
If he's refusing to make himself available, if he's refusing to play...
Well, they didn't fine him. Maybe he was given permission not to go.
Well, this is the curious thing, because if I'm the Newcastle owners... the fascinating thing for me is how does this remedy itself? What is the remedy here? We all know what the remedy is if a football club breaches his contract. It has to meet its obligations, or the player becomes a free agent and off he goes. What happens in this situation when a player breaches his contract? What can Newcastle do to him? That would be the fascinating thing to find out legally what Newcastle.
6 weeks.
No. I'm talking about silly little internal football matters like fines that often you would believe break employment law in this country because no one else in any other business can get fined a week's wage. So it's interesting to see how football gets around that sort of governance. But if I'm in Newcastle's situation, I'd be sitting down with his player and say, "You're in breach of contract," and what that means to me is I'm going to sue your backside. I'm not going to sue your backside for a week's wages. I'm going to sue you for the consequences of your behaviour. So when you're thinking about what you think you're going to do and how you think you're going to behave, let's not worry about reintegrating you back into the team right now. Let's not worry about reintegrating you back in with the fans. Let's worry about the consequences of your breach of contract. If you have breached your contract...
You're talking about a legal writ.
I'm talking about the consequences of a player deciding that he no longer wants to make himself available to fulfil his contractual obligations and what that means and the ramifications of it, because Newcastle must have some ability to be able to, in the same way that when Adrian Mutu, different circumstance, I grant you, but when Mutu broke his contract with Chelsea, what happened to him? He got sued. And he had to pay compensation back to Chelsea because of loss of his value in the marketplace because of his behaviour, albeit it was related, that was a recreational drug issue.
But the fact he hasn't been fined yet, Simon, suggests that he's been given permission to stay away from the group.
Well, maybe. Or Newcastle are sitting there saying, we're not going to start this particular... I mean, the key expression in all of this, the key sentiment, the key line, the key paragraph is we want to keep our best players, but we also understand players have their own interests and wishes, and we listen to their views, which I guarantee you Newcastle have done. As we explained to Alex and his representatives, we must always take into consideration the best interests of Newcastle United, the team and supporters in all the decisions. And we have been clear that conditions of a sale this summer haven't transpired. So they've been engaged in a conversation. They've told the player and the agent what they will be prepared to sell the player for. So everyone knows where it stands. The agent and the player don't like it. They don't think it replicates the understanding that they might have got 6 months earlier. And Liverpool are not interested in playing ball with Newcastle's transfer requests. And that is the end of the conversation. The player should now really fall back into line and do as he's told and come again next summer.
Stephen, Newcastle fan, if that happens, what Simon has just suggested, and Isak attempts to fall back into line, do you welcome him back?
Personally, I think he's starting to go down the route now with his Instagram post yesterday. You could sort of feel he's starting to try and rebuild some sort of bridges. But Matt, yes, I do think eventually he will play for us again. I don't want him to personally, but I think we're going to be forced into a position where we're going to have nobody else. We've got Gordon on the left who tries his best. He had a little patch in the 21s a few years ago where he did okay, but he's no striker. It was so on against Villa at the weekend when he came onto the left and Barnes went off. He just looked more comfortable than ever. What I think might happen at the moment, I'd like to see happen is I would like to see Eddie Howe stand up and be counted a little bit more. He's a bit of a politician, Eddie Howe, the way he speaks to the press. He really gives much away. But what I would like to see on Monday is Isak, if he has said that he's refused to play, well, he doesn't get paid, he gets no bonus, he gets no nothing, and maybe terminates his contract. If he hasn't said that, if I was Eddie Howe, I would start him on Monday. I would just literally throw him on, see what happens. I'm going to throw him under the bus. He'll either sink or swim. If he scores the winner, obviously everyone forgives him. If he has a nightmare, it doesn't look like he's really interested. It just puts him in an even worse
Stephen,
position than he's already in.
Are you agreeing with what Stephen's saying there?
Well, in an ideal world, I mean, if the manager says to him, look, you're in the squad.
Yeah.
Although he's not even training with the group, but let's say he trained for a few days and he says, right, you're in the squad, and he decides to not fulfill his obligation, it puts Newcastle in a really strong position.
Yeah, there's a great message from Rich. 3 things here. What the club said, what Isak said, and what is the truth. That's virtually right, Phil, isn't it? Newcastle fan. Phil, you've been waiting for a while. What do you want to say?
Morning, lads. Hope it's all well.
Morning.
I'm coming up to 56. I've supported Newcastle for close on, 45, 50 years, and I've never been more disgusted with a player in my entire life. As far as I'm concerned, he isn't even our best player. He's best goal scorer, but Tonali and Bruno are our best players. Let him rot. If he refuses, let him put a transfer request in, but we know for a fact he won't, because he's a greedy man, and he will lose millions of pounds worth of bonus.
No, he could do, but I'm surprised he hasn't done that, because obviously he'd get so much money for moving anyway. I don't know why he hasn't done that. I don't know.
Who do you think will show us that they're going to blink first, Isak or the club?
If Newcastle are allowed to fine him, like I believe they should be, and like Simon said, I believe they should be, I think he'll blink first. Once he starts losing hundreds of thousands of pounds a month, there's no player's going to not turn up for that sort of money.
That's probably true.
I mean, you said a moment ago, Phil, let him rot. By that, you have nil interest in him being reintegrated into the squad.
If he comes out, like another caller said, on his hands and knees and begs for forgiveness, I got it wrong. I've sacked my agent, get rid of the agent. I've sacked him. I've got somebody new. We're going to renegotiate, whatever. And from what I've heard, it was Amanda Staveley who promised him, allegedly, a new contract last year. But she's not there anymore. So that's null and void. It's a moot subject.
Phil, listen, thanks for the call.
It's not. If she was in a position of influence and power at the time, then it's not null and void, unless you have no integrity.
Well, it hinges on this, doesn't it?
Well, when was
integrity relevant in football?
Yeah, to some extent, it gives Alexander Isak a stronger position.
It does, but it doesn't mean anything legally.
Well, it doesn't mean anything legally. Of course, it doesn't mean
Simon,
anything legally.
second guess this for us. How does this get finished?
Well, it depends who's got the appetite for it. Newcastle have made a very clear statement. We are dealing with a lot of supposition. I don't even know if Liverpool have made a formal offer.
The reports were they did.
A formal offer with the conditions detailed of how they were paid £110 million. Newcastle have made it very clear in their statement. They haven't met the terms of what we're prepared to entertain. The player and the agent know what Newcastle are prepared to entertain. So clearly there's a disconnect, and clearly that disconnect is being manufactured into a breach of an agreement that they believe they have understood. And I absolutely believe the player. I believe the player has sat there and said to the football club that if a club like Liverpool or Man United that are rumoured to come in, or Arsenal, whoever it is, I want to be able to go to this football club. And I believe that Newcastle will have said, we understand your wishes, but it will be on Newcastle United's terms. That is not the same as giving a player an unequivocal blank cheque to leave whenever you want to, for whichever football club wants to bid. Now, the situation is Newcastle have to now, given the statement they've just made, they have to stay with their circumstances, which is our conditions haven't been met. The clever thing is no one knows what Newcastle's conditions are, and no one knows the specifics, explicit specifics of what Liverpool have offered.
Well, maybe looking at it, and we'll take some calls from Liverpool fans after this because you're queuing up as well. Maybe it won't be Isak and his agent will sort this. Maybe it won't be Newcastle. Maybe it'll be Liverpool.
Well, that was my point.
Well, no, because you could argue that even if Liverpool meet Newcastle's valuation, if Newcastle can't get somebody in who they think's good enough,
but Newcastle can. Newcastle, with respect to Newcastle, are doing the same thing to Brentford that's being done to them.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. I see your point.
Take a couple more calls after this. No apologies for it. This is the burning issue right now. One of the biggest name players in the Premier League at odds with his own club, and his own club saying, get on with it. You're still one of us. And we're back after this. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy, live in talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. What on earth did we witness at Ibrox last night? Rangers left the door open to Club Brugge, and by God, the Belgians took advantage of that. Now they've got it all to do in the second leg as Rangers attempt to get Champions League football for the rest of the season, but they're up against it big time. So is Russell Martin. We'll get to that very shortly. In the meantime, with Simon and Danny and myself, we're going to finish off just before 11 on the Isak Newcastle Liverpool situation. Statements released by the player and then a statement released by Newcastle. Isak saying when promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. So he's saying it's done. We cannot go on together. Newcastle is saying no commitment was ever made by a club official that Alexander Isak can leave Newcastle United this summer. So who's going to fold first? Who will show us their hand and show something of a climb down here, because that's what it's going to take. Meanwhile, Liverpool fans lining up to give us their thoughts on it. Liverpool reportedly having bid 110 million but haven't come back, hence the stalemate. David, although I'm a Liverpool fan, Isak's behaviour isn't acceptable. Should he refuse to play for Newcastle, the club should absolutely sue him. Not just for his wages, but the impact he's made on the team without him. Simon, you would take tough legal action against Isak.
Well, no, I would certainly have a position very well established, but I would have had a position very well established from the outset, which is the relationship with the player would have been communicated very clearly, and his agent would understand my position very, very clearly. And there wouldn't be any debate in the same way that Gibbs White understood Marinakis' position. Now, I think Newcastle have done the right thing. They haven't said very much, and the only reason they've said something now is because they're not going to allow Alexander Isak to say what he said. So he said something on there, and they've gone and corrected it. Now, they've been quite strident in what they've corrected it with. They're unequivocal. And so I would, first of all, I'd be fining Isak for that particular social media post because it's bringing the club into disrepute. I'd have fined him for anything else I could fine him for. And I wouldn't give a, whatever his thought process. I wouldn't, I understand why they're putting in sentiments at the bottom of the statement like, we're all a family and Alex will work back with the family. Behind the scenes, that's window dressing. That's making sure that everyone thinks Newcastle will operate in a certain way. Behind the scenes, there would be no doubt in this player's mind where he stood. There'd be no doubt the consequence of his actions. There'd be no doubt the ramifications. And then we'll see how big and strong he is when it comes down to what he needs to do. And if it meant that he was prepared, and of course if I started fining him, of course then you'd hear the PFA pop up with their two penneth about how we're fining the player rather than the player actually breaching his contract. But I think Newcastle's statement says enough. And it says everything it needs to say. And it's irrespective of whether Staveley said it, Paul Mitchell said it, at the time they have denied, not caveated it. They said at no point did a club official ever say what's being alleged.
What I would say, not that I can't wait for your reaction to this. When I interviewed Isak at St James's Park last season, I met a very mild-mannered, polite, softly spoken, fluent in 5 or 6 languages football player who was thrilled to be at the club he was at.
I'm sure he was.
But anyway, that was then and this is now. James is a Liverpool fan. James, do you hope your club comes in with an increased offer and takes Isak?
Yeah, I hope that they do. I think I can see it happening sooner or later, but obviously it depends on if Newcastle are willing to obviously listen to offers. Simon said earlier that something about Liverpool's bids for Isak in the past and whether it was actually true or not. From the reports that I've been reading, it is true, but obviously it's a first offer, and you're a businessman yourself, Simon. You know not to accept the first offer anyway. But what that's done is that's got the ball rolling to then show Newcastle that, yes, we are interested in Isak and we want to make a deal. The other point that I want to make out is I understand Newcastle fans. Like, I've got a lot of admiration for Newcastle fans, a lot of respect for them. But the one thing I will say is I cannot understand why Newcastle are still holding on to Isak. In part of that statement, it clearly said that he's welcome back at the club when he's ready. Now, to me, that shows that they're seeing Isak as bigger than the club. The thing is, take your losses and just get rid of him. At the end of the day, they're saying that they can't let him go without getting a replacement in.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's not. Are you going to get 100% out of Isak this season?
James, you're not wrong in that. In their statement, they say Alex remains part of our family and will be welcomed back when he's ready to rejoin his teammates. James is right.
That's not what they mean. That's just window dressing. That's putting a soft focus on a steel
So what
hand.
did they really mean?
What they mean
When he's ready is a bizarre thing to write,
but that is just framing. That doesn't. Behind the scenes, they'll be saying something completely different.
You wouldn't
And
have put that
as far as Liverpool's concerned, first of all, newspaper reporting doesn't make it a fact. Second of all, a formal offer, if it's been rejected, needs to be followed up. Third of all, Liverpool got form on this before. They agitated around Virgil van Dijk to such a point that the player got sanctioned. So Liverpool have a part to play. Now, you want this player, then you have to pay the price that the club that holds his registration wants. Go away.
2 more calls we're going to squeeze in before we hit 11. This is Chris, who's a Liverpool fan. Chris, good morning. What do you want to say in it?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we?
Good,
Hey,
thanks.
Chris.
Go for it.
Yeah, just a couple of points. First one is, right, is Isak for sale? Yeah or no? Because from what I'm reading and hearing is that the club are prepared to sell him, because at the end of the day, all Newcastle have to do is just go, Isak is not for sale at any price. Ends of. It doesn't matter what offer you come in for him, we're not selling him. It's as simple as that. But they're not. They're not actually coming out and actually saying that.
Correct.
So, as it presently stands, Isak is for sale.
How do you think it gets sorted, Chris? Who's going to fold?
Sorry. Who's going to fold? To be honest with you, I think it could go either way. I mean, to be honest with you, the longer it's going on, the worse the taste I'm getting in my mouth about Isak.
No, that seems to be the case with many fans.
Well,
this morning.
let's
finish with Ian, who's a Newcastle fan. Finish it for me, Ian. Where are you at with it?
Where is that? Jim Light?
It is. You're live on talkSPORT, Ian. Good morning.
Fantastic. All I wanted to say, he scored so many goals.
Okay. I think we had a bit of pantomime to finish with, and there's nothing wrong in that. We shall see what happens in the course of the next few hours. You never know. But at the moment, the big question is, who is more likely to be forced into a climb down? Might it be Isak and his agent? Might it be Newcastle? We'll watch it. It's 11.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Commercial vehicles that go the distance for your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 1 minute past 11, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. As the Alexander Isak saga turns ugly, Simon Jordan says if he were in charge at Newcastle, he'd find the backside off Isak.
These players are running around now, whenever they don't get what they want, turning around and saying, well, I understood this. I had a gentleman's agreement for that.
Newcastle say they're disappointed to read Isak's statement, claiming promises were made that he could leave. As Isak keeps pushing for that move to Liverpool, Simon has some advice for his representation.
If you're an agent and a club official sits in front of you and he says, look, OK, I'll give you an implicit understanding that if something comes along, we'll agree to it. Put it in writing.
In an extra twist, Newcastle host Liverpool on Monday night. That's live here on talkSPORT. Meanwhile, is Wesley Fofana doing a whisser? He's removed all references to Chelsea from his social media channels. Aston Villa winger Leon Bailey's joined Roma on a season-long loan. Roma do have an option to buy for 19 million. Now, Rangers legend Ali McCoist has called their latest defensive performance horrendous.
We are, at this moment in time, no doubt a Europa League side, mate. Absolutely 100% a Europa League side.
Rangers lost 3-1 at home to Club Brugge in the second leg of their Champions League playoff is next Wednesday. It looks like Peter Shilton's lost his world record of appearance record. Fluminense say their keeper Fabio has now played 1,391 games. The 44-year-old made his pro debut back in 1997. And Scott Minto's told us with Chelsea competing in the Champions League this season, he'd be happy with 4th place at home and a deep run in Europe.
But I still feel they do need to bring in another player if Chelsea are to really go for the Premier League and Champions League.
We've got Chelsea away at West Ham, live on talkSPORT this Friday night.
talkSPORT News.
Airfare and food prices are being blamed for the hike in inflation, and the world's largest study on childhood vaping has exposed some serious consequences. Amelia's back at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Buy 2 or more Bridgestone Turanza all-season 6 tyres and claim Bridgestone's massive 20,000 mileage guarantee. Visit quickfit.com and book today. Conditions apply.
Scotland and Northern Ireland bright with sunny spells. England and Wales brightening up. Cool and breezy along North Sea coasts.
Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday morning. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy, and we are live on talkSPORT, streaming live on YouTube and your smart TV. You can watch the show as well as listen to it. Many of you are doing just that as we come to you live from our new studio here in the 17th floor of the news building here at London Bridge. A lot to get through. Thank you for all the calls, and I mean that. So many of you calling in with your view on the Isak Newcastle Liverpool situation. Any development on that, we'll bring it to you first and fastest right here on talkSPORT. Later on this morning, we'll be talking boxing. Josh Buatsi in action again. We'll speak to the fighter himself. It's been a busy old week with the Dubois situation. Him parting company with his trainer, Don Charles. More on that tomorrow when we talk boxing for real. In the meantime, last night, Rangers back in Champions League qualification action. They'd seen off Panathinaikos of Greece. Next up was a Czech side, Victoria Pilsen. Next up, Club Brugge. And we were warned, or at least Rangers were warned, that Club Brugge might make a fist of it because they were in the mood to do a job in Rangers. First leg last night at Ibrox, and that certainly was the case because Club Brugge came in a fighting spirit, scored in the 3rd, the 7th and the 20th minute. And Rangers got one back in the second half, but it makes it mightily difficult for Russell Martin's men to progress in the Champions League. They fell apart in that first 45 post-match. This was Russell Martin.
There's been a fragility of this club for a long, long time, so it's not a new thing. So when I talk about change and changing habits and trying to act in a certain way all the time is not easy. So when I say as a club we didn't react very well to them moments, we didn't. Like players, supporters, everyone, because the club's been had a lot of pain over the however many years, bar one season, I think. The precursor to change is pain, very often. The club's bounced around with different ideas, different plans, really been hinged on emotion, making decisions just on a quick reaction. So now we have owners and a leadership team that understand where the club's been and where it's at and where it needs to go to, but they also understand that's not going to come without a bit of pain. Tonight, we had some real pain in 45 minutes. We got through it together, we finished the game brilliantly, and we gave enough and done enough to feel excited about next week, and we're still in the game.
Are they still in the game? Russell Martin mentioned the owners, and they have got new owners, Rangers. The 49ers are in there. Get Simon and Danny's take on this in a second. Worth casting our minds back just a couple of months when the vice chairman of Rangers, Parag Maranth, of course, a senior figure in the 49ers, spoke about why they appointed Russell Martin. It
was a very exhaustive, comprehensive process, led by Patrick and Kev very capably. And we're all very excited about him, given his experience being a former Ranger man himself. He understands the unique weight put on him. And it was referenced earlier about how long or short will the honeymoon period be. There's no such thing as a honeymoon period in football. The pressure is always there, every match to win. And he understands that, having been here, having been a successful manager. And really what I've found in my experience is that the really good managers, they not only know what works well for them, but they've also learned from different challenges they've had in their careers and learned what didn't work and how to adjust. And I feel like Russell's done a good job of that as well.
Okay, so a few weeks on, and maybe the outlook might be different. Next for Rangers, St Mirren away. St Mirren are decent. Club Brugge away. Rangers 3-1 down from the first leg. And Celtic at home. Simon, is Russell Martin's tenure really in danger of folding before it's truly begun?
Well, I certainly hope not. I think the only results that really cause the uproar are the Motherwell and Dundee results that they've started the season poorly in the SPFL.
Which did both come a few days after good results in Europe.
And so he's gotten two results. Most people were looking at the Panathinaikos tie and saying that was going to be a difficult challenge, and they navigated the way through there, albeit they were under pressure from Panathinaikos. They still won those games. They beat the next opposition. Club Brugge are an established European side that are used to playing in the Champions League, that dug out results last year against Atalanta, against teams like Anderlecht, against teams like Aston Villa, that are significantly above where Rangers are at this moment in time. I think it's an unfair set of scenarios that he's coming under this sort of pressure. He hasn't helped himself with the league games, and he needs to probably get a result against St Mirren. But any talk of him losing his job, look at the 49ers ownership style. They go down. Daniel Farke doesn't get them promoted back in the first season, and they stay with him because the expectation was they expected to get straight back up with Leeds after getting relegated. They finished third in the league. Southampton went up in their place. They stayed with Farke. This season, he gets them promoted. There was rumours that he was going to be moved out of the equation then. They've kept with him. They'll stay with this guy until they've given enough reasons perhaps not to. And it is not 6 games and a lot of background noise as he's trying to formulate a team that has outcomes that are better than his predecessors over the last 10 years.
You don't think it's a case of the new ownership holding their nerve? They don't need to hold their nerve.
They've made a decision.
Just carry on as you're doing.
They've made a decision, and they surely can't look at this decision after 5 or 6 games. Some of those have been commendable results, despite the fact that people will point to an individual game or a couple of Premier League games that haven't gone their way and say, well, this defines the manager that we looked at. We went for an exhaustive process. We determined all the outcomes. We just did a press conference where we tell you that the manager learnt from lessons, which was a nod to the accusations about his performance at Southampton. And then after 5 minutes, the exhaustive process wasn't that exhaustive. We got it wrong. We're going to get rid of him. I don't think so.
I think also...
neither should they.
Not that I've seen all of Rangers' games, but if you're looking at in isolation the start of the game last night, I've been in games where it's happened to me. It doesn't matter how you set up tactically or how you motivate players.
That's what they do.
If you after 7 minutes have 2 incidents like that, one is a miscommunication between the goalkeeper and the centre half, you're 1-0 down. Then somebody decides to leave somebody in the box off a set play and not go with their man, you're 2-0 down. Some responsibility on the players. I mean, the first goal was comical. So you're 2-0 down at home against a good, as Simon said, an experienced side, and then you find something, a bit of resilience, which you should, and have a better second half and at least give yourself a tiny chance of maybe getting through the tie. Small one, granted, away from home, but those first 2 goals after watching them back this morning, it matter how good you are as a manager when you
Can't
play.
legislate for that.
No, you can't. No. It's really, really poor. Simple things, Jim, for those 2 goals.
When he speaks, I tend to listen because he's formulating a point. He's got his own way of doing
But he's
it.
captivating. But ultimately, captivating, being a brilliant communicator and captivating in front of the camera won't keep you in a job at a big club for that long. You have to show progression on the pitch. But as Simon rightly says, 6 games is hardly an indicator.
No, I get that. But before this game, Danny, he's talking about, I'd like to see the joy, show us the joy in your face of playing for Rangers in this wonderful stadium, Ibrox Stadium. Yeah, by all means. There wasn't much joy in the first 45 minutes. Show us you can win.
Well, the other problem you've got, you want players to be able to play with freedom, is what he's saying there, and enjoy what you're doing for playing in such a wonderful club.
But there's a frailty about Rangers, isn't there?
Well, there's a frailty about players who don't have the mindset, the character, and the football quality to play for us. He'll soon sort out the ones who aren't capable of playing under that pressure. Because you know, Jim, as well as best than us, playing for Rangers, whatever you think about the Scottish League, playing for Rangers is pressure because you're expected to win nearly every game you play. Same for Celtic. So that pressure comes with a price. You've got to be able to adapt. And some of the players he's bringing in are already there. You could argue don't have that quality.
He played for the club, Simon. He knows the club. He knows the demands of it. He'll certainly know what the 49ers are looking for. Do you think this is a match that is made well and that will be a successful one? Do you see Russell Martin there at the turn of the year?
I like Russell Martin. I didn't like some of the things I didn't like the inability to pivot at Southampton. I thought there was ridiculousness about that, but I certainly liked him when he took Southampton out of the Championship. I think he was the reason why they got out. And lots to be said, that sounds like making a statement is the bleeding obvious, but I thought he was the difference between Southampton allowing their season to fall away when they missed out on automatic spots and having the resolve and determination and absolute resilience to demand these players push on and try and win the playoff final when no one else tipped them. I was the only person that tipped them, one of the very rare ones that I get right. And he was at the centre of it. Now, the other side of the argument was I think he was wrong in his approach at the beginning of the season. What the 49ers MD was saying, or the CEO was saying, is that people look back on things, they make decisions in the past, and they learn from them in the future, in the present. And he was suggesting that this guy's done that. I think there's a lot about Russell Martin that people should embrace. I don't think he's perfect. I don't think he's a perfect fit for Rangers in all respects, because Rangers would like to see what they perceive to be a bigger name, a more iconic position for them. But they're not in that space right now. And Russell Martin is a decent manager. The 49ers, taking over a football club, would have wanted to make a decision that they felt was right. And it's not right that after 6 or 7 games that people are rumbling about what he's doing. It's not right. You've got to give him his head.
What happened at Southampton? Southampton ended up a car crash. And it's not so much to leave the back door open. At times there was no back door. And last night, in that first half at Ibrox, there was no back door.
That's not true. That's not a fair characterisation.
A lot of problems with Southampton were overplaying. I mean, the first 2 goals weren't overplaying. They were just
bad individual decisions,
bad mistakes, and miscommunication. So I didn't, as I said before, I didn't see the whole game. I haven't seen the whole.
They were very open last night.
Well, but you've got to find a balance when you're.
I think Rangers fans were worried that it would be seriously embarrassing at halftime if it wasn't embarrassing enough.
Yeah, but that's gone, isn't it? They did play better second half. They put up a fight. That's done. But the reality is, you've got to find a balance between winning matches and style at every club, especially at Rangers. So we'll have to wait and see. But if you're talking about him under pressure after 6 games, I think that's crazy.
I mean, that was the same latterly at Southampton. If you can find this balance between winning games and doing it in style, then your quid's in.
But we are equating, I mean, Southampton overplayed, and they had players that he was asking them to do certain things in the Premier League that they might have been able to do in the Championship. Yeah. They weren't capable of doing in the Premier League. So his argument would be, if I didn't stick to my belief, I couldn't have had that belief very strongly in the first place. And I understand the merits of that argument, but you've also got to recognise the talent pool you've got around you and say, it did it against lesser opposition. Can it do it against better opposition? No, it can't. I've got to pivot. And he chose to continue with an ideology. Or he will argue that he didn't. He will argue that actually we didn't do that, and that was a narrative that was being peddled around me. Now, going to the situation with Rangers, the 2 goals that Danny refers to, he can't do much about the communication between a goalkeeper and a centre-back, and he can't do much about players not doing their jobs besides drill it into him over a period of time. And if anybody thinks that you can fix a team's ails and the challenges in 6 games, then they're bloody foolish. because no one can do it. You can get the best manager in the world. You can get Pep Guardiola in there, and he will not get exactly what you require of the players.
How many games did Frank de Boer get at Palace?
Well, that might just be a cultural fit in terms of fundamentally you've interviewed someone, you thought you saw something in that interview, and actually the players don't respond to him. The culture of the manager is completely different than what you anticipated, and you've got the completely wrong person. I don't think that you can say that about Russell Martin. The last 4 games in the Champions League qualification have gone his way.
The other thing is as well, let's be honest, if they drop down into Europa League, blessing for them anyway.
Well, that's where they are. I mean, Ali coming out with this wonderful, insightful statement that they're a Europa League. Well, whoever said they were a Champions League side? I don't think the Rangers are a Champions League side. I think they're probably a Conference League team right now, a Euro Conference League side, because the reality of how much
they were right last year in Europa League, to be fair to them.
So if it drops down, it'll probably suit them better. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have thought Rangers fans.
Of course not, but I'm talking about the harsh reality.
Let's put it out there this morning. Rangers fans, are you in the mood to persevere? Not only with this team, but with Russell Martin in charge of it. You might want to give us a call. Why not? Because the next 3 are important. They're all important, but the next 3 super important. St Mirren away, Club Brugge away, you're 3-1 down, and Celtic at home. What happens if you lose all 3? What happens if you win all 3? Are you capable of winning all 3? 03717 223344 81089. Never a dull moment in the world of boxing, and that certainly is the case for Josh Buatsi, because further down the line, certainly later in the year, Josh Buatsi will make his return to the ring against Zach Parker in Manchester. A press conference to that effect is expected later on today, but we're about to speak to Josh right now, British light heavyweight boxer, because there's a bit more significance to this. It's a change of promoter for Josh Buatsi. Josh has changed. The fight in November will be Buatsi's first signing with Queensberry after he left Ben Shalom's Boxer. Josh joins us live on the show. Josh, good morning to you. So the change of promoter for you, how important was that at this stage in your career?
Morning, guys. How important was that? I think it's very important. I looked at, again, what promoters doing good shows that's got fighters that are in my category. What fights are being made that the public wants to see. And when I look at the promoter behind it, I saw Queensberry was, behind a lot of them. So with the offers that I had, this was the best suited one for me.
And of course, people are still talking about that fight you had against Callum Smith. Can you bounce back after what happened that night? I mean, undoubtedly, Josh, that was one of the fights of the year, wasn't it?
So I've been told, but again, it's I always say, look, I wish I'd come out on top. And to ask the question that can I bounce back, I think November the 1st I'll show people that I can bounce back from it. You can bounce back from defeat. It's happened, but November the 1st we'll see.
I mean, Simon, as you know, Smith remains the only defeat on Buatsi's record, following 19 wins. So Josh was going strongly up until then.
Yeah, and I was going to ask Josh, because I haven't spoken to him since that defeat. I mean, ultimately at the time, I thought Callum was a worthy victor. Having looked back at the fight, it was closer than I remember watching at the time. But, I mean, how have you processed it, Josh? Because everything was going in one direction. When you were with Ben Shalom, the outcomes were you fought Hutchinson, you really wanted to fight Yard. That didn't manifest itself. How have you reacted to... Does it matter to you that you've lost your O? Does it really bother you that much? Or do you feel that now you've got a bigger point to prove, having lost to Callum Smith?
Yeah, Simon, I think that sometimes people lose and then they realise certain things in terms of who's around them and stuff like that. And I didn't experience that. If anything, I was more reinforced that the people around me were the same people that were there before any of this had happened, in terms of you wanting to interview me or knowing who he is. I noticed the same people I had before then and after my loss were the same people. So for me, it was nice to actually see that, the same people I'm always with when I win were the same people that were there when I lost. And I did a lot of things that has helped me heal.
What did you take, though, Josh? I mean, Zach Parker is an opponent that I think Frank's been trying to get you to fight for some time. I think he was pushing him towards Ben when you were signed towards Ben. You now arrive with Zach Parker. Arguably, the best name on his record is a loss to John Ryder. But when you look at the reality of where you are, what did you take away from the defeat that you're now going to build on and utilise to go forward to get you back to where you want to be, which is challenging for world titles in light heavies?
I think within the fight itself, Simon, there was some stuff that I was doing that some stuff were good, but there were a lot of things that I did that I need to get away from.
Like what?
I'm not going to sit on talkSPORT and say it for everyone to write down. But look, I think the main thing that I would say, Simon, is that, my coach said, Josh, you went to war and you lost. He says, no general goes to war with the same strategy again. So we have to change things up. I'm not saying we have to change everything, but some things need to be changed. So in training, we're working already. So November the 1st, I hope to go out there to win again.
And is there an inevitability? I know that Anthony is fighting Benavides in November. Is there an inevitability in your mind that you're going to end up fighting Anthony Yard? A lot of people would like to see that fight. Obviously, if Anthony wins the world title, you'll be able to potentially challenge him for a world title. If he were to lose that fight, would there still be a desire and an ambition for you to fight Yard, or are you not bothered about fighting Yard? You want to fight for a world title?
I think being with Queensberry now, Simon, it has to be as easy as possible now to make it happen. So if I were to say, no, it's a bit still complicated and it may never happen, that's me lying. So I would hope that fight it's easy to make. We have the same promoters now.
I mean, Simon, obviously you know your boxing inside out. What kind of fight is Josh's fight with Zach Parker? in Manchester.
Well, it's a fight that for some time that Frank, when Josh was sitting in the staple with Ben Shalom because he wanted to be on Sky, he left Matchroom because he didn't want to go to DAZN. He wanted to be on Sky, and Sky was an opportunity. It was a fight that Frank wanted to make. I think it's a fight, with due respect to Zach Parker, that Josh should come through. He should come through this fight, or you start to look at where is Josh going to go if he doesn't, and Josh will know this. But it's going to be a competitive fight. It's a good match. But I would expect Josh to come through. I think that the matchmaking of him against Callum Smith was risky. Callum Smith is a quality former world champion, albeit at a different weight class, and they both fought at a very, very high level. And there were some things about Josh that he knows that he needed to do better against the different opposition he did against Callum Smith, and he learned a lot from it. But I expect, with all due respect to Zach Parker, for Josh to come through it. Or with due respect to Josh, we're now talking about Josh not operating at world level. And he won't want to hear that, and he won't believe that, will you, Josh?
No, definitely not. I think, like you said, against Smith, I would have learned from that. And it's my job to go out in November and to demonstrate and to say, guys, we did lose against Smith, but we've learned from it and we're pushing forward. Because those title fights and the big fights is still where I want to get to. So ultimately, I know I got to get past Parker first.
Are you still with the same training regime? Are you back in America? Are you
already back in the States, Simon? I just came back just for this press run, and I'm heading back to the States.
Right.
Presumably, Josh, further down the line, you might want to avenge the Callum Smith defeat.
Not even further down the line. I would have taken it straight away, after the first fight in Riyadh, but it wasn't offered, But yes, because of that, further down the line, absolutely.
Josh, I know you're speaking later at this press conference set to take place regarding the Parker fight in Manchester in November, but you spoke to us first, and I appreciate it, mate. Thanks for doing that.
No worries. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Josh, good luck.
How do you think he will come back, Simon, after that, if you like,
it was a hell of a fight,
in the road against Smith?
It was a hell of a fight, and there were some of the things that I would have expected him to have been able to done against Callum Smith that he couldn't do, but Callum Smith was brilliant on the night, and I think it was a difficult bit of matchmaking. I think if Josh had got what he wanted, which was fights that were happening against Anthony Yarde when he wanted them rather than Willie Hutchinson, I think Josh was a little bit of a victim of, with due respect to him, not that he's still listening perhaps now, when he fights Dan Aziz and he fights Willie Hutchinson, he's fighting at a certain level. So he goes into a fight with Callum Smith, who's a world-class operator, and maybe the fights that preceded that didn't help Josh be at the level for a Callum Smith. Now, he's learnt that, and he knows that, and I would have expected his training camp to have prepared him for it. But Callum Smith was brilliant on that night. So what we'll see is what damage that fight did or didn't do to Josh Buatsi. Because if Josh Buatsi's back in the groove, I would expect him to deal with Josh Parker.
Would you be recommending he stays away from a Callum rematch then?
Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't recommend it. Callum Smith is not going to take it. Why is Callum Smith going to refight Josh Buatsi? He's beat him. He wants a world title shot. He's a former world champion. I
don't think it's going to happen now.
He's only come back in to fight light heavies because he wants to win a world title.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised he didn't get the Benavidez shot, quite frankly.
Okay, well, he's changed promoter. He's with Queensberry now. And as you heard, Josh looks forward to fighting Zach Parker in Manchester. That is then, this is now, and now it's 11:30.
Shin pads are a footballer's best friend. Even if players like Jack Grealish do wear such small ones you can barely even see them. But what's the story with shin pads, and are there actually any rules on how big they should be? It all started with cricket, actually. Cricketers had been wearing shin pads since the 1700s. It was thanks to this guy that shin protection made its way over to football. Meet Samuel Widdowson. He was a cricketer and a footballer. He played for Nottingham Forest back in the late 1800s, and he wanted a way to protect his legs from nasty tackles. Naturally, his mind drifted to his other favourite sport, where players had been wearing these pads for a century. Story goes, Widdowson cut up his cricket pads and popped them on before taking to the footy pitch. His Nottingham Forest team then began wearing them from 1887, and the first known use of them in a match was in 1894, in a match between Newcastle and the then Woolwich Arsenal. Eventually, FIFA clocked on that this kind of protection was pretty important for footballers. And so, in 1990, basically 100 years after Widdowson first put them on, shin pads were made compulsory. It became part of Law 4 of IFAB. That's the body responsible for setting the laws of the game internationally. But the law doesn't actually specify anything about measurements of shin pads. It just says they must be made of a suitable material and be of an appropriate size to provide reasonable protection. It's really vague, even though there have been calls for it to be changed. But for now, that's why Grealish and co can still get away with these ones, which are no bigger than a credit card and which seem to offer little to no protection whatsoever.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+gambleaware.org.
Yep, it's showtime, BetMGM time. Charlie Robertson joins us. We're going to look at some of the top sporting events and the odds round and about them. Let's look back, Charlie. Good morning. At events at Ibrox last night, 3-1 to Club Brugge. Nottingham Rangers' favourite, of course. And then tonight, another Champions League qualifier with Celtic up against FC Kairat, who hail from Kazakhstan, I understand.
Correct, Jim. Yeah, morning, guys.
Morning.
Yeah, as Simon mentioned to Matt Gibson yesterday, I think Club Brugge represented quite a tough test for Rangers compared to who they'd faced already, and so that proved with that 3-1 defeat. There'll be a pretty big prize to turn it around, I'd imagine, but probably not as big a price as the Kazakh champions that Celtic played today. They're actually 20-1 to beat Celtic tonight, with a draw 15-2 and Celtic just 1-12. So we do think it will be a fairly straightforward night for Celtic, and I'm sure Sean Martin will be tuning in. Danny, Simon, on Celtic, I just want to get your thoughts on the Jamie Vardy rumours. Do you see that as a signing that Celtic should be looking at, or do you think that's one that maybe they should be looking elsewhere at the end of the transfer window? Sorry.
Well, it depends what they've already got, but I think it makes sense in some respects, because he's going to be playing in a team, if he goes there, who dominate most games, going to get plenty of chances, and we know he can finish. He's not going to have to do too much defending for the majority of games they play, so it makes sense. Great experience, can help those around him. Younger lads learn from him. Yeah, I think good move.
He's a good pro, isn't he? I mean, the reason why he's had the longevity that he's had, albeit starting from a slightly lower position than perhaps he would have liked to have started in terms of the non-league position that he came from, he's been a great pro for Leicester. You know, whether we like him personally is irrelevant. I think as a good pro.
Do you not like him personally?
So not huge regard of him, no.
No, okay. I wonder what he thinks of you, or me, or Danny, or Charlie. Let's move on. Celtic then expected to beat FC Kairat with ease tonight. And who are we to say that won't happen? Let's talk golf. Danny's favourite golfer, I think, Scotty Scheffler.
Yes.
Wins the 2025 BMW Championship in Maryland. Never mind that, you're just back from God's country, are you not?
Yeah, I was playing golf. In Royal Dornoch gym, which is about an hour north of Inverness. So it was very nice up there for the last week or so. But yeah, no, back to talking about golf as opposed to playing it now. So yeah, all good.
How did you play though, Charlie?
Very badly, very very badly.
Okay.
Next question, Jim.
Well, let's move on to the Tour Championship. But having said that, before we do, have you ever I mean, obviously we remember Tiger Woods and his pomp, but what are we witnessing in Scotty Scheffler's achievements, Danny?
Well, I mean, everyone keeps talking about the fact that it's similar to what Tiger did. So he won 9 last year and he's already on 5 this season. Tiger's the last guy to do that in 5 tournaments in 2 consecutive seasons. And now this week, I think weekend, is it this weekend or next? We've got the final of the FedEx, which they've changed the format of, probably because of him, you know. Because what used to happen is whoever's at the top starts 10 under. And then second, 9 under. But now they're making it, the top 30 players all go down, they all start from scratch. So maybe they were thinking, we can't keep this other format because Scotty's going to be 10 under.
Yeah.
And he won it last time. He's probably going to win it again. I'm joking a little bit. I'm sure there was a bit more intellectual thought around it. But the fact that they've changed the format makes it a much more fascinating and interesting tournament.
Well, Charlie, take us to the Tour Championship in Atlanta, Georgia this weekend.
Yeah, as Danny's sort of done my job for me there rather a lot, but which has been very helpful. But yeah, it's the final tournament of the PGA Tour season, Jim. At East Lake in Atlanta, as you mentioned, the winner wins the FedEx Cup and a pretty nice pot of $10 million as well. And then as Danny mentioned, unlike previous years, all 30 players start on the same score, which obviously gives a better chance to the likes of Bob McIntyre, who I know you mentioned earlier. But yeah. Off that amazing win last week, I'm sure Danny saw that chip in on the 17th from Scheffler, which was absolutely amazing. Scheffler's 13-8 to win and to become the first man to successfully defend the FedEx Cup, which is about a 40% chance in terms of the probability. So we do think he's got a really good chance. He's 13 top 10s in a row. And only Palmer, Nicklaus and Woods have done what he's done in winning 12 or more PGA Tour titles and at least 3 majors in a 2-season span. So he really is dominating. As you mentioned, Danny, just a quick one. Do you think this is Tiger levels now? Do you think we need to be talking about him in those terms, or do you think he's still got a little bit of a way to go to be on that level that Tiger was?
Well, statistically he has, of course, because when you look at Tiger's numbers, nothing short of ridiculous. He's got to keep doing it at this level, but there's no reason to suggest he's going to stop anytime soon because of he's young, he's physically fine, he very rarely gets injured, doesn't miss many tournaments. It's fascinating to watch. The only difference is now, of course, there are some brilliant golfers trying to bring him down. And I don't know, I've got a feeling this week it might just be one tournament too many. He's been on this crest of a wave and you have to have a little dip. You know, he's also got that ridiculous record at the moment, hasn't he? What is it, 17 rounds in the 60s?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean,
it's unbelievable.
It is. It reminds me of you in your pump, Jim, when you were playing.
Very much so, Danny, when I couldn't miss. What about Bob McIntyre, though, mate? You see him shushing the American crowd. What's Big Bob capable of? Because nothing would please me more than for him to get right up there and start winning.
Oh, he'll win a major at some point. He's got fantastic mentality. I mean, he come second recently, didn't he? So he's in the US Open where Spawn beat him just with that ridiculous 50, 60-yard putt. He is a fiery, brilliant competitor. He's got a unique personality. He's likable. As we said earlier, he's unapologetically himself.
Yeah.
He's a field player. He doesn't look like he's coached too much. He sees it and he just plays it. It reminds me a little bit about Bubba Watson back in the day, that type. But I think he's destined to win a major, yeah.
Let's hope so. Charlie, listen, thanks.
You won't shut up about it when he does.
Bob McIntyre. We're going to have him on. We haven't had him on yet, have we? We'll get a hold of Big Bob and we'll get him on. He speaks our language, certainly speaks mine. That was the latest odds thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
We were talking a short time ago about Rangers last night up against Club Brugge and or Bruges, Brugge, whichever you prefer. You say tomato. Anyway, they were 3-0 down in minutes, 20 minutes to be precise. Got away with it really to an extent, 3-1, and that's how it stands going into the second leg in Brugge next week. Many Rangers fans giving us a call. Let's select one because we're moving on at pace this morning. Jason, you're a big Rangers fan. Where do you stand on this? Do you think with a bit of perseverance, Russell Martin will be allowed to show what he's been brought for and that he can turn it around at Rangers? Do you back him?
Well, put it this way. See, when he was appointed, I was gobsmacked that he'd even been appointed as manager, and I think that's probably about 75% of the Rangers fans, because obviously I listen to your show there and I hear a lot of the statistics with the teams that he's managed before, and they were glad to see the back of him, I believe. Now, we've gone through 5 managers. We have been through a tough time, but you know what? See, when you get a manager that doesn't address the number one, which is your defence, and I've actually to say they're actually going backwards. Rangers are going backwards in defence. When we lost that first goal, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry because it was just, it was just so bad. After the second goal went in, they were all standing in one side and there was nobody attacking that player that scored the goal. And after the third one went in, that was it. As far as I'm concerned, you can't just say sack, Russell Martin, right, because he's only just signed. You've got to back the manager. But see, at the same time, we go out, get beat off at St Mirren, get beat off at Bruges, and get hammered by Celtic. I really can't see any way back for Russell Martin because at the end of the day, you're going to be 10 points behind Celtic. And Celtic's not even playing that well, but do you know what? You've got to admire Celtic because they get the job done, whether it's 90 minutes or 97. They keep going.
Some decent points, Jake.
Would it be fair to say, because obviously you know your squad better than us here, whoever you brought in, if it was a new manager tomorrow and you had to pick of who you wanted, is any manager's hands tied to a degree in overtaking Celtic with the squad and the budget?
It's not so much trying to overtake Celtic right at the Pacific time. I was happy with Barry Ferguson. I would have rather had Barry Ferguson in as the manager than Russell Martin, right? If you can't sort out your defence, look how bad, right? With Motherwell, Dundee, Alloa, we're losing goals. I think we've had about 150 shots since the league started. It's a comical, it's laughable. You can't even cry about it. It's just laughable. And Russell Martin is not the man for the job.
I like Barry as well, Jason, but he couldn't win a game at home.
Well, put it this way, you've seen the start of the season. You've seen the way we've played. I've watched, a bit of this social media with other ex-Rangers players, looking at his tactics, and the board. The players are all over the board like one of these squiggly lines, and I'm going, what is he actually trying to do? Because I haven't seen anything that's good since he's come to the, to the Rangers. I've seen him sign players, but the thing is, the first thing you do is you get a defence, and then the next thing you do is you get somebody up with Dessers.
Okay, Jason, listen, many points in that. Simon, if you're one of the 49ers at the top of the club, what are you saying to Russell Martin, if anything? At the moment?
I think that's, again, I think it's the wrong characterisation. He was very much sought after by a lot of clubs. He started at MK Dons. He was pinched by Swansea. Southampton pinched him from Swansea. He got Southampton promoted, and he was given a very short period of time in the Premier League. So I think it's unfair to suggest that there was a gobsmacked reaction to the fact that Russell Martin. Who are you going to get then? Who was going to be your manager then? Because they weren't happy with Philippe Clement. Who was this big list of people that want to manage Rangers with the rewards and recognition that you get for managing Rangers financially?
Didn't Mourinho hint at it?
Oh yeah, come on. Yeah, that's Mourinho just playing everyone against the middle for the purpose of a particular game that he was involved in. But I look at this and say, Russell Martin, is a work in progress.
Agreed.
And Rangers have to accept that they've got a work in progress at this moment in time. And I know that they don't, and know that they won't. And I know that they'll say that at this moment in time, it's not where they want it to be.
He makes a good point now about I've always found that when I'm at a club and a new man comes in, if you sort out if you're hard to beat initially, then you can grow.
Yeah.
That's the first bit.
Yeah, and Rangers not hard to beat at the moment. St Mirren next, Club Brugge away, Celtic at home. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy.
Who's beat him then? I mean, again, the poor bugger's been characterised by a style of play that ultimately...
Well, no, they haven't. They've drawn against...
Sure, but they're hard to beat. They've only been beaten once. They're easy to beat. Well, they're not. They've only been beaten once. They've been beaten once by a well-established Champions League side.
Yeah, but it's a draw as Dundee, Motherwell,
and that's what's hurt him to some extent.
And at the moment, tripping up domestically, but not in Europe.
Listen,
that was the case until they took to the field last night.
If they win their next two and get a decent performance against Bruges, even if they go out, if they beat Celtic, all of a sudden the mood changes.
Of course.
There's a spring in the step of everyone.
Okay, you know the three of us, and we're with you with Selco, because it's where the trade goes.
on talkSPORT with Keep Britain Tidy. No ifs, no buts. If you smoke, bin your butts.
Get in the bin. Yep, it's that time. We're looking at this feature in conjunction with Keep Britain Tidy. What we do here is basically have a topic or a couple of topics. Simon and myself, and on this occasion, the extremely distinguished Danny Murphy throws his threepence worth into the ring, and we decide whether or not the story's got any merit, any legs, or should it be Keep Britain Tidy, popped in the bin. You with me? Let's look at it. Simon, in the build-up to the US Open tennis, you'll have seen this. We have the mixed doubles, but it's a mixed doubles with a difference. It's very much part of the build-up to it. As I say, it's a precursor to the tournament proper. It's a new standalone 2-day mixed doubles championship. But it is different. In a format change, just 4 games will be required to win a set, whilst there'll be no advantage scoring. In other words, it's totally different. They've thrown some of the key players together, like Raducanu and Alcaraz, but they lasted just 50 minutes yesterday as they were defeated by the top seeds Draper and Pegula in a 4-2, 4-2 first-round defeat. That doesn't sound like tennis to me.
I like it.
You like it?
I mean, I love tennis, but I like that as well because what I think it does is it entices a lot of the top names to go and play because they're not going to be exhausted, and it gives them a little warm-up without thinking they're going to be in these long 2-hour 3-setters or whatever they are in mix where it's...
But does it not have an exhibition feel to it? It's not for real, is it?
But if you're paying your money, you'd rather go and watch the best players play with each other than know people you don't know.
Well, I would suggest that the reasons why they've chosen this particular dynamic, which is the mixed doubles, is because it's the one that perhaps needs the biggest injection of innovation and focus. I think they're paying more money to the winners of it. I know that the outrage, the confected outrage that's coming around it is that it's not, if you win this, you can't say it's a slam. You can't have the traditionalist view that it's as meaningful as it was before. But I would assume there's a commerciality and a reason behind it. And it may well be because no bugger's watching mixed doubles.
I think you're spot on. I think that's where it's going with it.
We've just had the Club World Cup, which is new and innovative and commercial.
Oh, yeah, you felt that, did you, at the time?
I don't like it.
It's a great big dump
I don't like it, but that's the way the world is. Everything evolves.
Right.
Whether you like it or not. Some people aren't.
This is even more innovation, though, isn't it? Because this is not the Club World Cup wasn't 60 minutes, was it? It wasn't 30 minutes each half. This is a changing of the actual set composition, which is strange to some extent, because obviously they think that people can't bear to watch mixed doubles for a full set. I don't know what the point of that is.
Are they thinking outside the box here, Simon? Are they keeping tennis relevant, I think is a question.
Well, are they keeping that?
Seeking to ask you.
Are they keeping that particular component of tennis? I mean, with due respect, I have not been a major watcher of mixed doubles.
No. Me neither.
You know, I watch the doubles and I watch certainly the singles.
But it appears Danny's a major fan.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is now...
You won the mixed doubles at Wimbledon, Dan.
I don't know. But
there you go.
My point is...
He's got a picture of Betty Stove on his wall.
Betty Stove.
I might
blast from the past.
I might start watching it more now with the top names playing, like Alcaraz going in with Raducanu. I'll have a look at it.
All right, so we're keeping this out of the bin and we're keeping Britain tidy.
For me personally, yeah, I'm much more open-minded these days.
We're not popping it in the bin.
Not for
You're
me.
having it.
I'm having it.
We bow to our tennis experts' knowledge.
I think that there is a reason for it. The only thing I would question is why change the format. If you're changing the dynamic of who's playing with whom,
more players to play.
Is that what you think it is? You think that by playing shorter sets, that these people will be more available to do it?
Pacey. Quickens it up, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, but it makes it very short for people to watch.
I don't think it's for real. It doesn't smack to me as if it's got reality about it. 4-2, 4-2. I mean, really?
All right, Andrew Castle over there.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. But I go with Danny. There's a bit of life in it, and we'll see where it takes us. Before we go, one of your former pals, Simon, you spoke very highly of this individual on a variety of occasions. Roberto De Zerbi, once of Brighton. Do you remember him?
Yes.
You weren't having him when he started offloading on the ownership.
Indeed.
Messrs. Bloom and Barber. Are you having him now? Because he hasn't hung about. He now is in charge of Marseille. Right. He's told Adrien Rabiot and Jonathan Rowe they can both do one. You won't be playing for Olympique Marseille again after the pair were involved in a physical bust-up in the dressing room following the club's loss to Rennes at the weekend. They lost to Rennes by 1-0. The two of them had a scrap in the dressing room, and De Zerbi has turned around and said, right, you two, you're out of here. You're off. They popped him on the transfer list, and they're off. He's not messing about. He says, the others beat us on the pitch. We come back and these two beat each other up. Do you know what that means? That they have both got very small balls. Whether that's true or not is another matter. Whereas in Marseille, we have two big balls. Whether that's true or not is another matter. Is he right? Kicks him out?
Well, I don't know the severity of the fight and the details. My gut feeling is that's a bizarre response from the manager to deprive yourself of two really, Rabiot especially, very, very talented midfielder. I know he's trying to create discipline and set a standard, but sometimes a good scuffle between two players and a really good ding-dong can clear the air.
What was the best scuffle in the dressing room you ever witnessed?
I think I've talked about it before. I'm not going to go into details. The best best fight I ever saw was in the showers.
Really?
Yeah,
it's a bit disconcerting, Danny.
Well, it might seem weird.
And what was
for
the soap?
Two athletic naked men going for it, but they had a right good go at each.
Where's the soap? And you were, and this makes me feel uncomfortable, an onlooker.
I was the only one in there.
This gets better and better
as well. Yeah, it was a difficult one.
Simon, De Zerbi, is he right?
It depends on the circumstances. I mean, I think that I'm in the same place as Denny. I think sometimes
you in the showers.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes these situations can create a better outcome, but it depends upon the circumstance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's presiding over a team that finished second in the league last year, so he's no slouch in that returns. He creates arguments himself, so I would have thought he'd been more tolerant of others that do the same.
So what are you having De Zerbi doing this or not? Are you putting De Zerbi in the bin or are you keeping him out of the bin?
He wants passion. He's always talked about passion.
Yes.
Sometimes it overspills. Sometimes it just creates problems. And then it's
if I'm keeping him out of the bin, am I by definition littering? Because isn't the thing about throwing things into the bin?
We're beginning to take it a bit too seriously, I think. But I like where you're going with
fly
it.
tipping.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Opening
from
the window
Danny
and throwing
in the
crap
next
out like
commercial
Danny does.
We'll find out in the break who these two were who were scrapping naked in the showers, and we'll name names at the other side of 12 noon. That was all thanks to Keep Britain Tidy.
Get in the bin! On talkSPORT with Keep Britain Tidy. No ifs, no buts. If you smoke, bin your butts.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Helping business owners to work better and live better. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 12:01, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good afternoon. Who's to blame for letting this Isak transfer saga turn ugly?
Good agents don't let this situation happen. The best agents get the deals done quietly, discreetly, firm hand, with good negotiating and find a solution for all, generally.
Danny Murphy's wondering who might have promised Isak he could leave, as the striker claims Newcastle say terms of a sale have not been met. Danny's gut instinct right now is Isak stays.
Mainly because they haven't got a replacement. even if Liverpool go up a bit, I don't see how Newcastle can let him go when they've got nobody to play centre forward.
To add extra spice, Liverpool go to Newcastle on Monday night, and it's live on talkSPORT. Aston Villa winger Leon Bailey's joined Roma on loan till the end of the season. They've got an option to buy for around 19 million. Bailey's the second player to leave Villa Park this week after Jacob Ramsey moved to Newcastle. Meanwhile, is Wesley Fofana doing a whisser? He's removed all references to Chelsea from his social media channels. Russell Martin still believes Rangers can make the Champions League group stages despite having to go to Bruges next week 3-1 down. Ali McCoist isn't sure qualification would be good for Rangers right now.
Nobody wants to see this team get a going over, and in that performance, that is exactly what Rangers would get in the Champions League against a top-level opposition.
And Rugby Union is returning to Wembley for the first time in a decade. South Africa will play Japan there on November the 1st. At the same time, England host Australia at Twickenham. We've got an exclusive interview with Wales's Rees-Zammit at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Will we see more councils prevent asylum seekers living in hotels in their areas? And it's not looking good if you're on a variable mortgage. Inflation's gone up again. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. At QuickFit, we're all about keeping you safe on the road. With our comprehensive motor insurance, we're here for every journey. Search QuickFit Motor Insurance to find out more.
Scotland and Northern Ireland bright with sunny spells. England and Wales brightening up. Cool and breezy along North Sea coasts.
Good afternoon, everybody. 4 minutes past 12 noon. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it's Danny Murphy, and we are live on talkSPORT. Thanks to everybody for all the messages coming into this show between 10 and 1 weekdays on talkSPORT. It never fails to amaze me, and that we are under siege today, not least because of this ongoing situation, the frustrating situation in the eyes of many Newcastle fans. The situation between Alexander Isak and Newcastle United. He says he's on his way out. Newcastle say, no, you're not. And Liverpool wait in the wings. We're watching it all the while for you right here on talkSPORT. Another such move may involve Eze out of Crystal Palace, Eberechi Eze, with the destination maybe ending up being Tottenham. Of course, these days, Thomas Frank's Tottenham Hotspur. Interesting this morning in the Times, one of the best writers in the business, there is Martin Samuel. Sorry, Palace, but you'll need to be more Marinakis. Let me put a bit more meat in the bones to that. With the right ownership mindset, can football's traditional pecking order indeed be challenged? Keen to get Danny's reaction to this, and of course, former club owner himself, Mr. Simon Jordan. Martin Samuel says this: the expectation remains that Mark Guéhi and Eberechi Eze will leave Palace before the transfer window closes. The most successful manager in the club's history, Oliver Glasner, appears to be increasingly frustrated, and his contract expires at the end of this season. We can see the way this is heading if Palace aren't careful. This is a club that last lost a game on April the 16th, and since then have won 2 trophies. And then he tells us, Martin Samuel tells us, Palace should be wondering if they can muscle into the top 4. Instead, they are 2 sails away from being considered relegation candidates. Would Marinakis let this happen at Forest? No, he would not. For all their recent success, Palace still seem to be worrying about what is below. Forest, look up. Simon, is he right? Is he right about that? You look at the situation at Palace.
Yeah, he is, but
and then Forest.
He is, but he's oversimplifying the equation, because Marinakis reacted very stridently to the news of Gibbs White leaving, because he had budgeted potentially for Gibbs White to leave, but not Alanga and Gibbs White. So there's context to the situation there. But he is right. The model of ownership at Nottingham Forest is different to the model of ownership at Crystal Palace. There isn't huge amounts of cash being pumped in or made available by the owners. to be able to build the team. Glasner will become frustrated. I've spoken about Glasner in terms of I think he's a top-class manager. They did very well to get him in the first place. I think he was disappointed a year ago not to have gotten a huge amount of backing. He'll be doubly disappointed this season to not gotten a huge amount of backing and to lose some of the players they've got. There's nothing that Palace could do about Gehi. There's nothing Nottingham Forest could do about Gehi in that situation if he was a Nottingham Forest player. He's got 1 year left to go on his contract. Now, the other side of the equation is it's very easy to say it's a mindset it's going to get you into the top four. It's not just a mindset, it's overcoming the governance. Now, Marinakis did push the envelope. He has been prepared to potentially put himself in the way of sanctions.
Yeah,
he argued the sanctions. Say again?
They got dot points.
They did. And as yet, Nottingham Forest haven't won anything. And Crystal Palace have. Obviously, in Marinakis' tenure.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I understand what point Martin's making, but it's very simplistic with the current structure of football to suggest that it's just the ownership mentality that's going to change the direction of travel. But I do agree, if you want to build a side, how do you get to build a side if you keep on selling your best players? Bournemouth are having this challenge, despite the fact that Bill Foley's protestations, and some of them I thought were slightly ludicrous, despite the fact that I like him a lot, and I think he's been a breath of fresh air for Bournemouth, that they can pay what everyone else pays, they can pay what they want, because they can't.
Well, who has ever built a side that's become Champions League material by keeping players over a period of time that isn't one of the big teams? There's no precedent for it, really. There might be the odd exception. But let's be honest about it. Ezra's 27. If they get 65, 70 million quid from Tottenham for him, they trust their recruitment team. I mean, I know Dougie's gone, it was brilliant for them, but they sold Elise to Bayern Munich. You can't prevent a kid going to Munich for 50 million and bring in Sarr for about 10.
And that's right, and they did that well. But Martin's point is also well made, that actually you need to, if you're going to do these deals, if you're going to sell Eberechi, if you're going to sell Gehi, get it done early in the transfer window so that you can build. Now, Palace are now looking at the 19th, 20th of August with two players they don't quite know what's happening with.
Exactly.
And they give themselves a limited amount of time to
keep players.
They
might have been planning on this for a while. I mean, the thing you know as well as anyone, deals don't happen that quickly because there's a domino effect to the transfer market. And Gay, for example, and Ezra playing in the Community Shield against, great win for Palace, gives them a little bit of momentum, gives everybody a bit of confidence. There's no rush if the deal.
Yeah, but Simon, on Forest, if Marinakis wasn't at the top of the house at Forest,
yes,
Morgan Gibbs-White would be a Tottenham player.
Agreed. Absolutely
so
right.
you have to
sure
admire
Palace
that.
can pay.
I mean, Martin Samuel says Marinakis has refused to behave like his club are inferior to anybody in the Premier League.
But
that's great if you're a Forest fan, isn't it?
And I like that, and Martin's right to tell that. But also, Marinakis flung everything at it, given the fact that there were people that were breaching agreements around confidentiality of release clauses and so on and so forth. So he muddied the water. But yeah, I think Marinakis was absolutely, this is the way I'm going. Now, Palace's ownership is not that way inclined, doesn't have the predisposition, doesn't have the front. Well, they certainly have the wealth in terms of David Blitzer and Josh Harris, but they don't wish to redeploy it. John Textor came into the studio 2 or 3 months ago, or 6 weeks ago, and whatever he spoke about and people disagreed with, and however they hold him responsible for situations surrounding Palace, he talked about looking forward and building a football club to be successful.
Simon, you need a willing participant, and what I mean by that is the player. So if Ezra and Gay are saying, I'm not signing...
But Gibbs-White was made to be... The point is, Gibbs-White was not a willing participant. He was on his way to Tottenham, and he got his mind concentrated on his owner.
Yes, but by money, probably. I can guarantee you that Gibbs-White's earning more than anyone at Palace.
But Martin's argument is, why aren't Palace doing the same?
Because they can't afford to pay what he's giving him.
So then what we're talking about is Martin's suggestion is that the ownership models needs to probably change at Crystal Palace, or needs to change his mindset. Because Crystal Palace's ownership model has the same access to money as Marinakis. The money that's available to them via Blitzer, Woody Johnson. Are you kidding me? This is the heir to the Johnson & Johnson fortune. There's plenty of cash around Crystal Palace, but the structure of the football club isn't predisposed to going for it in the way that Marinakis. That's his point.
And that's why, presumably, Palace fans today will be saying, why aren't we doing...
Based upon pushing up.
But Simon, Palace fans would be right, would they not, to say at this stage, why aren't we doing with Gehi and Eze what Marinakis did with Morgan Gibbs?
They tried with Gehi last summer and he wouldn't sign him.
Yeah, they didn't sell him last summer. I mean, Gehi, you can't make him sign a contract. Crystal Palace can't turn itself into a legacy football. I mean, the last two examples of football clubs really turning themselves into something that the big football clubs, well, 3 examples, have dominated were Blackburn, Chelsea and Manchester City. And the governance at the time was different. So even if Palace want to huff and puff, there's a certain level of huffing and puffing. So Martin's saying Palace should be looking up. I hear you.
Yeah.
But saying that you should be looking towards being a top 4 club, I think is I think he's playing to a gallery that isn't there.
I also don't think their two signings are. If those two go, Palace aren't getting relegated because they'll replace them both. I mean, if you think of when they sold Anderson to Fulham for 30 million, good deal at his age, and they brought in Lacroix, who's actually better.
His bigger point, Dan, is that Glasner's going to go.
Okay.
And dollars for donuts, Glasner will go. Because A, he's got a year left on his contract. B, I'm pretty much clear in my mind that he wasn't happy last summer.
Yeah.
So his reward for having a very successful season last year, getting him to win the FA Cup, getting him to win the Community Shield, getting him to Europe, is get bounced out of one European competition and be given no money and have your best players sold. You're not keeping your manager in that climate. Especially a manager that's getting the currency now, that's getting traction.
I suppose,
and therein becomes what Martin is doing is looking through the very simplistic view of, well, forget sustainability, forget the governance, just look at the ambition of what you should be doing. But Crystal Palace isn't built that way. It hasn't been wired that way. It hasn't been established that way. And with due respect to Nottingham Forest, they're Johnny come lately. They've been out of the Premier League for 23 years. Let's see what Marinakis does. You know, if he can keep Nottingham Forest in the Premier League for 13 years like Palace have been in there and win something, then we can have these conversations.
You see, I'm sure you admire the way Marinakis goes about it, Simon.
In this instance, yeah.
By God, he puts his money where his mouth is. Forrest sold Brennan Johnson to Tottenham under pressure in 2023. He held out for so long.
He thought he was going to find it.
That the club ended up being dot points over PSR.
I think that's rewriting history. None of the clubs at that time thought they were going to get dock points. They thought they were going to get financial penalties, and he baked it into his thinking. The moment they got dock points, they started to not like these sort of things and started to push back and started to change the way they operate. So he's now complying with PSR.
But when you heard that Tottenham were in for Morgan Gibbs-White, if you'd been Marinakis, would you have given it the elbow treatment? Hang on, boy, you ain't going nowhere.
Well, it depends what was happening with someone else. They didn't need to. They got Anthony Elanga.
You've got to admire Marinakis.
They had Anthony Elanga and Gibbs-White. And there was an expectation of one of them was go. When both of them were going, the owner stepped in. So A, we don't need to do this from a PSR point of view.
Right.
And B, I'm not going to allow it to happen. It's a much more complicated equation than Martin is just presenting it as. It was Marinakis' way, and it shows great ambition. But I do like the fact that the only thing Marinakis is, he's not interested in popular opinion. He's not interested in the orthodoxy. He's not interested in what people think. He'll go on a pitch if he feels like it. He'll turn around and gob in the direction of an official if he feels like it. He'll bring Mark Clattenburg in to turn around and say that the refereeing fraternity is having a go at me. He'll turn around and have a go at Gary Neville, say you're banned from the football stadium because you called us equivalent to the mafia.
Yeah.
So I quite like that. There's another side to him that I don't particularly admire. But with respect to what his basic principles are, is I'm in a business as Evangelist Marinakis, and whatever I own is Nottingham Forest. Well, I'm in that business now.
I think what Martin's piece is doing is applauding some of that behaviour, which is probably right. I mean,
think so.
He's highlighting the fact that Marinakis is going against the going against the grain.
I used to play the
Marinakis is going against the grain.
'Twas in a night in Capri I first met her.
And flexing his muscles.
Right. Dan, Eze to Tottenham, if it happens, is it good for both?
He makes Tottenham better, that's for sure. And I don't think it's good for Palace because even if they spend half of the money on the replacement, I'm not sure they're going to get better than him.
Are you surprised more clubs weren't in for him?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Depends on the price, though. I mean, as I said, he's 27. A lot of the big clubs' models now are changing. They won't go for a 27, 28-year-old and pay 60 million for someone when there's no resale.
He's a great example of perseverance, though, isn't he? Loan deal, loan deal, loan deal. It's really come good for him.
He's one of those footballers that plays free. He's really comfortable in what he can do, and he expresses himself. I think there's a bit more to come from him now. I think he needs to get a little bit. For me, sometimes in games he has rest periods, maybe a little bit fitter. But for Tottenham, he could fly.
It's a great example of good moves at the right time because other clubs, when he was at Queen's Park Rangers, didn't take the view that Palace took the view. They gave him an opportunity. He repaid that opportunity, and now a bigger club is coming along and paying. And ideally, what Palace have suffered from in the past, and they suffered from with Wilfried Zaha, was an inability to get the bigger clubs to pay Palace what these players are worth because they felt they could use all their lustre.
And if Liverpool get Gay, that would be outstanding.
Well, on Gay, on Eze, Alex Crook will join us before we go at 1 o'clock. We'll get the very latest on who is going where, the very latest on Eberechi Eze. It seems inching ever closer to Tottenham. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan live in talkSPORT with Danny Murphy playing the Marinakis. It is Wednesday lunchtime. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. 12:20. We're about to talk transfers. And that means 3 becomes 4. Alex Crook, chief football correspondent here at talkSPORT, joins us. Alex, good afternoon to you, mate. Let's carry on the conversation about the Palace duo, Eze and Gehi.
Come on, Crookie, give us some good news.
Give us some update of some sort, Mr. Crook. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, I've got to say, hats off to Eberechi Eze for the way that he's conducting himself throughout this transfer saga, throughout the interest from Tottenham. Obviously played at the weekend. There was a suggestion on Saturday from sources close to Eze that maybe that wouldn't be the case. And there's every chance he plays for Palace in their conference playoff tomorrow night as well. The key here is that Palace want a replacement in the building before they will rubber stamp Eze's move to Tottenham. It's our understanding, we reported this yesterday on talkSPORT, that a fee between Spurs and Palace is basically agreed in principle at 55 to 60 million pounds. And that replacement could well be Bilal El Khanous at Leicester. I'm told this morning there's a verbal agreement between those two clubs for a deal worth in excess of £30 million to include add-ons. Palace, as I wrote on my notebook yesterday, is still showing interest in Southampton's Tyler Dibling, but El Khanous much the cheaper of the two options. So I think the dominoes could start to fall into place here. El Khanous to Selhurst Park and then Eberechi Eze to Tottenham.
What are you making of that, Danny? If Eze goes, in comes El Khanous.
Not sure. Seen him a few times. Lively, tricky, but only scored a couple of goals, granted in a poor side last year. He's only 21, so, you know, he can't be too harsh, but different profile, most dynamic. He's low sense of gravity, he likes beating people, but I think Tyler Dibling would be, if they could get him, that would be a better bet. He's a super talent.
Simon, it's a big bunch of money for Palace, isn't it?
Well, it's Tottenham's money.
Half of it, yeah.
So not really, is it?
Oh no, but Eze going from Palace, so I mean,
no, not
it's
really.
quite a fee, is it not?
Well, it's a decent fee, yeah, but it's reflective of the marketplace. He's a top player, and I would ideally like to see Palace pushing for as hard as they. I mean, they tried to get. Well, they weren't going to sell Gehi for anything less than 65, 70 million last summer. So you know, clubs like Palace need to push very hard and make the clubs that take the advantage or take the benefit of all Palace's vision and development of players, and then we should make them pay the price.
What about Gehi, Crookie?
I think that's more difficult, and this is a conundrum for Palace, because I was told a few weeks ago now, when the window first opened, that yes, they were willing to sacrifice one of Eze or Gehi. Ideally, they didn't want to lose both in this window. Two key players in their FA Cup win last season, obviously two key players for the season ahead. I think they would have preferred to cash in on Gehi because, of course, his contract is up at the end of the next season. At the moment, he's not willing to entertain the idea of a new deal, and you can't really afford to lose a player of his quality on a free transfer. Liverpool, I think, is still sniffing away in the background, but I don't think they're going to pay the fee that Palace are currently asking for, north of £40 million. So this maybe becomes a game of poker in the final 11 days of the window. Do Liverpool up their offer? Do Palace lower their asking price? Or does Gehi sit tight, knowing that he'll be a very popular free agent for a lot of clubs this time next year?
Alex, do we have a latest on Chelsea's Club World Cup winner, Nicholas Jackson?
Well, this is certainly going to be one to keep an eye on between now and September the 1st. And we are into the home straight now. And what I think has been a brilliant transfer window. Stories left, right and centre. Simon might disagree. We know he's got a bit of disdain for this period. But
who cares what he thinks? Carry on, Alex.
Nicholas Jackson is certainly one to keep an eye on. Aston Villa and Unai Emery are keen. The issue here is, and again, I wrote this a few weeks ago, £80 million, the price that Chelsea are asking. I don't see anybody will pay that. No. I think clubs feel £60 million maybe is a more realistic price tag. In Villa's case, I think what they'd like to do is sign him on loan initially with an obligation to buy at the end of the season, because obviously that helps in terms of the books, in terms of where it would appear on the balance sheet with regard to PSR, because having missed out on the Champions League last season, Villa not in a great position in that respect. That's why they had to sell Jacob Ramsey.
Are Newcastle in for him? Because, you know, Newcastle desperate for a striker. We talked about it all morning, their situation. Because I think I like Jackson. I know he's a bit erratic at times, but he's a real threat.
He's hit and miss, Danny, is he not?
You've got to get someone in if you're going to sell, aren't you?
At 80 million?
No, but I'm saying at 60, would they be in?
Well, he's on their list, Danny, and he's been on their list for a few weeks now, but I'm not sure he's ever been top of the Newcastle list. But obviously they've missed out on Ekitike, they've missed out on Šeško, they're in for João Pedro and Brian Mbeumo, so they're going down that list. What I was told yesterday is that they're confident they will recruit at least one forward between now and the end of the window. But I think in order for Alexander Isak to be allowed to go, and I think he's resigning himself now to the fact that Newcastle really do not want to sell him in this window, they would have to bring in 2 strikers, and that looks unlikely.
What's the latest in Douglas Luiz? Is there one, Alex?
There is. I was told yesterday talks with Nottingham Forest advancing. Obviously did really well at Villa. Douglas Luiz helped them get in the Champions League a couple of years ago. Went to Juventus, got a big money deal there. Hasn't worked out at all for him in Italy. He's keen to come back to English football. Everton and West Ham amongst the other clubs who've shown interest. But I think the relationship with Edu and Douglas Luiz, 2 fellow Brazilians, could be Nottingham Forest trump card. And do you know what? Having bemoaned their window only a couple of weeks ago, Nuno Espirito Santo, since they found out they were going to be Europa League contestants, I think you have to praise Evangelos Marinakis because he is putting his money where his mouth is, and I think he's building quite a competitive squad for Forest.
He gets his way, doesn't he, Marinakis?
Well, he's just
talking about it.
Just brought in McAtee and Hutchinson, Amara Hutchinson, hasn't he? So he's got an abundance of...
Yeah. Do you like Douglas Luiz, Danny? You rate him?
Yeah. Clever player. Intelligent footballer. Yeah, I think that'd be a cute bit of business. I mean, I would imagine being earning a fortune now. Where you
would think so, yeah. Manuel Akanji, let's finish with him. A Swiss defender, of course, at Man City. Is he off to Turkey?
Well, I'm trying to get a steer from Manchester City on this, but obviously Pep Guardiola told us all at the end of last season that he had too many players. He needed to reduce the squad because I think the quote he used to me was toxic. The dressing room can get toxic when players are in the squad but not necessarily part of the first 11 or even on the bench, as was the case with Jack Grealish at the end of last season. Obviously, Grealish has moved on. There is interest from Galatasaray in Akanji. I get the sense that if the numbers are right, then Manchester City will consider doing this deal.
Alex, thank you very much indeed. Akanji, remember him in the Euros with Switzerland? He had his moments, didn't he? And some of them not good.
Jimmy's been brilliant for City.
Right.
He's been incredible. Wherever he's played, especially the treble-winning year, playing all over, full-back, right-back, left-back, he was incredible. I think he's arguably one of their best ever signings for what they paid for him. I think they got him for 15 million. He's been a bedrock of that defence for the last few seasons. I'm amazed he's going...
One of their best ever signings.
For value.
For value, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems from that, Eberechi Eze, though, inching ever closer to that move to Tottenham. As and when that happens, as and when any of these deals happen, we'll bring the news to you first and fastest right here on talkSPORT. We're at 12:30.
When Sir Jim Ratcliffe took control of footballing operations at United, the Manchester-born billionaire was somewhat welcomed in as a homegrown hero, ready to save the club from the dark days of the Glazers. But in just 12 months, he became a punchbag for many fans. So what happened? Well, let's take a look and you can decide for yourself. Over the last 3 years, the club lost 300 million quid, and Ratcliffe rightfully committed to sorting that. But what seemed to get fans' backs up is the way he went about it. For example, talkSPORT understands staff lunch options at the Carrington canteen have been reduced to just soup and sandwiches, which the higher-ups at the club say will save them 1 million quid a year. Now, that might make sense for many who don't get free meals at work themselves, but it does get a little bit more picky than that. It was reported that after staff brought some stationery, they were ordered to send sellotape back because it wasn't considered to be essential. And the reward for being Steward of the Week used to be 50 quid, but that was scrapped and replaced by a paper certificate. But it's not just seemingly stingy decisions. In 2024 alone, Ratcliffe oversaw 250 redundancies, and more were announced at the beginning of 2025. Now, while there are people who acknowledge United staff numbers are overinflated, it's the optics which aren't great. Add to the mix the introduction of a flat ticket price of 66 quid for every fan, even children, while Casemiro's on 350 grand a week, and the frustration of fans reached fever pitch. Time will tell whether Ratcliffe's cost-cutting measures will improve outcomes at the club, but one thing's for sure, there's a long way to go for United to be back where many say they belong.
It's that music, and that tells us that the NFL returns to Wembley in October as the Los Angeles Rams take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we have a huge competition to win VIP tickets. We're giving you the chance to win 6 seats in the private box at Wembley with full hospitality, as well as that will slip $5 grand into your back pocket. This is how you enter.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word cash to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or enter for free by calling 0330 880 338. All entries must be received by 25th August at 11 p.m. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
From the NFL, let's head to the sport of golf, the world of golf. An interesting story developing regards the upcoming Ryder Cup. We'll get to that. But 3 becomes 4 because talkSPORT's golf correspondent, that and many other things.
Oh, that was me.
Royal correspondent, of course, racing correspondent across many fields. Rupert Bell joins us live this lunchtime. Rupert, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Greetings from York, because I've got my racing hat on later on this afternoon, but I'm more than happy to put my golfing hat on to talk about the Ryder Cup.
Delighted that you're going to do that. Before we start, Rupert, Danny and I were talking off mic, if you like. Bob McIntyre, do you think he's on the brink of big things?
I do. I think he's cut with a different cloth. That sort of... There's a fire in his belly. Yes, it was frustrating last week that he couldn't close the deal out, but you know, Scotty Scheffler's got a tiger-like sort of impact on the game at the moment. He just is a force of nature, and it's hard to stop him. And I think in the end, it was disappointing to see, but I do think Bob McIntyre has a chance to be one of the big stars over the coming years. He's proving it already. And I know that he'll be an integral part, I'm sure, of the Ryder Cup team because he was in Italy. He learnt a lot from that, and he's not intimidated by crowds if they start giving him the bird. So I think he's going to be a star over the next few years.
You're right, Rupert. I think he's going to be key in the Ryder Cup. We're a month away from the 45th Ryder Cup. And, of course, that's being held at the tail end of September at Bethpage Black in New York. Rupert, where do you stand on this? The US Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley, is he likely to pick himself as player captain? Do you think he's going to do that?
I think it feels like he is talking that he wants to. He's got a lot to sort of... he was part of the team that suffered the defeat in the Miracle of Medina. And I think there's a lot he wants to prove that he can do it. Now, it's a tough ask. I mean, Arnold Palmer did it back in the 60s when the Ryder Cup was no more than a bit of a glorified exhibition where the Americans just turned up and won. So this is a different beast. It is very difficult to win on away, as Europe did back in 2012. But since then, it's basically been a home side benefit. But for Keegan Bradley to do this, it was an odd choice to make him captain in the first place. But if he does do it, it's going to put a lot of pressure on his 6 vice captains. And when does he play? He could do it if he doesn't play the morning matches. So he could then help with the selections in the afternoon, and then he could make himself play then. Or will he just sit it out until the singles? But he is one of the form players on the PGA Tour. So if it was any other captain, he'd be a shoo-in to play as a player. But now he's also got the added burden. But I think he'll do it because I think he's a strong character, and I think he has things to prove that, yes, I knew I signed up for it. Why not give it a go? But it's a brave call.
I'll get Danny's take on that in a second. But Rupert, another strong character, Rory McIlroy, he was asked the same question. Come 2027, would you fancy playing for and captaining Europe?
No, I've been asked to do that and I've turned it down.
You've already been asked to be the captain?
No, the idea of me being a playing captain sometime soon coming up has come up and I've shot it down straight away.
Yeah, why?
Because I don't think you can do it. I just think the commitments that a captain has the week of, you think about the extra media that a captain has to do, you think about the extra meetings that the captains have to do with the vice captains, with the PGA of America in Keegan's case, preparing your speech for the opening ceremony, just there's a lot of things that people don't see that the captain does the week of the Ryder Cup, especially now that the Ryder Cup has become so big. If you had said 20 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, I think it was probably possible to do. But with how big of a spectacle and everything that's on the line in a Ryder Cup now, I just think it would be a very difficult position to be in.
Danny, not that you're likely to be asked, but do you think this dual role is that difficult?
Well, I bow to the better knowledge of someone like Rory who knows what the captain does. And it sounds like a huge undertaking to do it. And I think the problem you've got for Keegan Bradley, which is why I don't think he'll do it, is that if he does it and they lose, he looks like a self-indulgent, egotistical captain who thinks he can do both roles when you've got wonderful players around him who he could select. There's Ben Griffin, McNeely, they're all having good seasons and they're all young guys, fit, healthy. I mean, I think it would be a strange decision to do.
Strange decision.
Well, just because you're leaving yourself wide open to massive criticism.
But funnily enough, Rupert...
Danny's going to have to play well.
Danny's in good company there. So Nick Faldo has said something similar. If you end up on the losing side, he said, if he plays, then the fans will say you're being selfish and the media will say, if you end up losing, you haven't done your duties and you'll live to regret it for the rest of your life. Really?
I think he's in a... He can't. He's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. I agree with Rory. I agree with everybody who's saying it is such a different beast, the Ryder Cup now. And as Rory alluded to, the demands on the captain's time is not just trying to pick which players are going out in which combinations. It is everything else that goes with the pressure of being the captain. But Keegan Bradley, they probably knew when they signed him up there was a chance this was happening. Now, in Europe's case, if we look 2 years down the line, Luke Donald probably won't be doing it again. He will have done it back to back. Who do we call upon? Well, Justin Rose is obviously now in the team, but he's 47. Could he become the next captain? But what if he's still playing as well as he is now? What do you do? So the Europeans might have a similar sort of problem. But obviously, Justin Rose being at 45, would seem to be the right time in Ireland for him to be the captain, but not to be a playing member. You just can't do it now. But Keegan Bradley is a strong-minded individual. He's controversial at times. He will just probably want to do what he thinks best. And I think he wants to try and prove them, yes, I can be a playing captain because I am on home soil and the Americans are overwhelming favourites to win it, even though the European team is a strong one. It is incredibly difficult now to win away from home in the Ryder Cup, even though we can hark back to Medina. But that was such a one-off thing, what happened on that Sunday. Everything went Europeans' way. I can definitely see the Americans winning, although, of course, it will be close. And for Keegan Bradley, if he's playing, he can go, look, I told you so. We can win.
I mean, obviously, from our point of view, Simon, we hope Keegan Bradley says, yes, I'll play and I'll captain.
He fails miserably.
And we hope he fails miserably. And we mean that, Keegan, in the nicest possible way, if you're listening. But, I mean, at the end of the day, if he says to the Americans, look, I can do this. I got this. Then he'll do it.
Well, he'll have to have a good reason for it, won't he? I mean, ultimately, what he'll have to do is he has to win anyway, but he'll have to win even more if he takes this decision. Now, Rory McIlroy talking about what he thinks the job involves, and obviously Rupert is far more versed in it. But if Keegan Bradley thinks he can do the job and understands the commitments that are brought upon him and understands the decisions that he has to make with a clear mind, yes, yet while still playing, if he thinks he can do it, it'll be interesting to see if he can do it, because if he does it, people will say, well, it didn't really make a lot of difference that much because they were going to win anyway because they're in America. The only challenge is if he loses.
Yeah.
And then it becomes all about it. I like the orthodoxy being broken. I like conventional wisdom being tested and tested for the right reasons.
And you like people who back themselves.
Yeah, the problem with this one is, though, that if you can they win it without him? Of course they can. They've got so many good players. It's not like he's scratching around thinking nobody can play to my level. There's loads of those lads waiting to be picked who are on his level and playing as well as him, or they're near to as well as him. You know, McNeely's one of the best putters. Ben Griffin's had the best season of his career. There's loads of them around him who who can trust him.
Right. Rupert, before you leave us, tricky as it probably is, can you make a case for the Europeans winning this thing?
I can, because they all are used to playing in America. They know what to expect. And Luke Donald is such a calm influence in the team room. He will be able to make sure the team can block out the noise, because we even saw last weekend that, you know, Bob McIntyre was getting quite a lot of abuse. This will be ramped up to a new level. So as long as they can sort of cut out the noise, they had every chance, because that team looks strong. But obviously, the home support does almost act as a sort of another player, an extra point for the home side. So, but I do think they go with a chance. But America look a very powerful team now, and with Scotty Scheffler going to be the heartbeat of the team, they will be very hard to overcome. But I'm going to New York with a spring in my step, and hopefully come away with another amazing victory for the Europeans. Although at the moment, I think the Americans are the overwhelming favourites, whoever is the captain.
Well done. We like that. We like that tone from you, Rupert. Thank you very much indeed. Rupert Bell there. And of course, the action will be live in talkSPORT. That was us being joined by our racing, royal, golf and football correspondent, Rupert Bell. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy, live on talkSPORT with Selco. It's where the trade goes. When it comes to the sporting environment, how much does the mantra of it is better to try and fail than not to try at all, how much does that ring true? The reason I ask is, you remember, Simon, do you remember this fella's name? Rees-Zammit, a rugby union player. Yeah. He has signed a new deal with the Bristol Bears. That's one thing. But on top of that, he tried his luck over in the US. He tried his luck, do you remember, in the NFL. He was a Wales and British and Irish Lions wing, and he shocked many people on the eve of the 2024 Six Nations by announcing, I'm out of here. I'm off to the US, and I'm going to play NFL, American football. He won contracts with Kansas City Chiefs and Jacksonville Jaguars, but didn't play a single competitive NFL game. Now he's back, and he's been telling our own Alfie Reynolds about his experience.
I just felt like I was kind of wasting my talent over there. I was kind of getting minimal reps because it's so hard to make it in the NFL, and unless you go through the college system, it's even harder. So, yeah, I just thought right now was the perfect opportunity to come back, especially before the season started. But yeah, I've had a whirlwind of the past couple of weeks, and I'm just so excited to get back.
What were the conversations you had out there? Was it still an option to continue on that pathway, or, as you have kind of said there, did you feel that it had reached its natural endpoint? I mean, I definitely could have continued through pre-season and further, but I just felt like, because it's a sport that you can't necessarily get yourself involved. Like, you're very reliant on other things happening around, whereas rugby's a completely different sport, and it's one that you can kind of get yourself involved in the game a lot more, and I can kind of use my attacking abilities within the game. So yeah, it just felt like the right time, and yeah, I think Bristol Bears is the perfect team for me.
So Rees-Zammit is back, and it's rugby for him. But Simon, as regards the experience, is it better to try and fail than not to try at all?
Well, it's better to try and succeed, ultimately, isn't it? It would appear that the choices were made for him in terms of he had a go, and you've got to admire someone's fortitude or preparedness to try something different. And it would appear that both the two teams that he was assigned to, whether it be Kansas City or be Jacksonville, both of them released him, so the choices were made for him. But I admire people that have a go. The people that criticise people that don't have a go are the people that have never actually tried anything themselves. But the ultimate equation is, if you're going to go and do something, you've got to try and do it and be successful at it. There's no point. From every experience, like you can gain something. Well, yeah, maybe. But from every experience that you have, you can gain something from it. If you want to look at it through that prism, sometimes you can have an experience that gains no benefit. It depends what he has brought back from that experience. He may have wasted 2 years of a very decent rugby career pursuing a pipe dream that, when it came down to it, he wasn't good enough to fulfil. So I'm not sure what you learn from that, besides maybe make better judgments in the future and maybe not be so idealistic.
I think most successful people in life
have tried things.
Generally, and I mean, even in football, there's very few who have never had some rejection and failure. There are a few exceptions to the rule, but most lads I knew and played with had some difficulties along
being rejected because someone's made a judgment call on what you do and don't do, but changing a sport.
But it feels like failure. Yeah, changing a sport.
I mean, I'm not a great fan of NFL. I mean, I think I'm happy for the Septics to have it as their own sport and let them do what they want to do with it. But the idea that he had a go, and rejection was one thing. Yeah. Most successful people know what they're good at and continue to do what they're good at, and they can, successful businessmen replicate it. They tend to be very specific in the fields that they are operating in. They keep on doing it until they're successful, or they keep on maintaining success.
I mean, you're a jack of all trades.
I was just about to say that, Danny.
Master of none, is that what you're finding?
But you were never afraid to fail, were you? You would give.
Why are you bringing that into the equation? Because it's so.
No, it's a serious point.
You were never afraid to fail, and you regularly achieved that.
You've got anything in front of you. You were prepared to have a go at it.
Sure, but I think that's the right way to be. But I think sometimes that you can make decisions and make them for the wrong reasons. But yeah, if you're going to take something on, you take it on. He had a burgeoning career. He's gone back to the career that he started from. Yeah. And it hasn't produced an outcome. So I don't look at any of the successes or failures. The successes you take as a given, the failures you tend to analyse and go, well, why did I do that? But life is life is beset with it. Success is like an iceberg, isn't it? You only see the top part of it. All the failure and the challenges are beneath the surface. And you look at all the people that are wonderfully successful, and their lives have been littered with challenges that you've never seen anything of.
I mean, all we know about this boy, Danny, is he had a go at it out there. It hasn't worked, but it was out there. We don't know what didn't happen.
Well, he
can come back here and in some way attempt to get back in the limelight.
Well, listening to them, unless I got it wrong, he could have stayed, and he did have some sort of contract, but he was a bit part, wasn't he?
I think I just read that he'd been released by both the Jacksonville Jaguars and...
they just asked him in that interview, could he stay? He said, yeah.
Yeah.
Whether that meant to crack on again, I don't know. But the point is, he knows he's gone back to his comfort zone, which is what he's really good
what he
at.
does best. He's found that out, hasn't he?
Yeah.
When you played, Danny, and it's an honest and it's a serious question, you played in some massive games. Did you ever doubt yourself before you went out?
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah. I think the first time I played against the Arsenal Invincible team, I was standing there looking at them, how big and thinking, because they were on a right roll at the time as well. I mean, obviously I'd done well to get to Liverpool. I was trying to make my way in the team, but I was looking around thinking, oh, God, how am I going to compete here? But then when you got on the pitch, your natural fight, your natural talent comes in, and then you have a few good games or months and start looking back, and you think, actually, I can do this. And you grow in confidence and stature. I think it's very rare for a Rooney situation or a Michael Owen situation who just walk on the pitch at 16, 17 years of age and feel comfortable with it.
Did Gerrard ever doubt himself?
No. No.
At any time? No.
I remember him being particularly frustrated. He got dropped. He got taken off at half-time in a Champions League game. We were 3-0 down at Bâle. And Houllier said in the shower to him, which nobody was expecting, brought him off and then dropped him for a couple of games. That was the only time I seen him think, oh, what's happening here? And then he just went, I'll show you. Bum.
Be interesting to see if he doubts himself as a manager now.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if that's carried through in from the, through the, impetuosity of youth and the belief in your natural talent through to a different dynamic where you've got to influence people. What Danny should doubt is his choice in wardrobe. Some of these shell suits he brings in are most disconcerting, aren't they?
Some of the hoodies.
We've moved on from hoodies.
I've resigned myself to the fact that I'm going to be single forever and I don't need to dress well for anyone.
Not a chance. Danny, you have many suitors out there. I know some of them. And Simon, when it comes to it, you're the wrong person to ask, aren't you, about failure? How could you ever be in a conversation like this? Single handicap golfer, county standard tennis
said
player,
any of that.
Skateboarder.
Never said any of that. Skateboarder.
Top paddle tennis player.
Goal scorer at
even
Wembley.
though he leaves the paddle at home
Goal
sometimes.
scorer at Wembley.
And he scored the first goal in a charity match at Wembley wearing white boots, a match I have heard that never took place.
And I have ambitions to move into OnlyFans, and I figure myself as a sort of a Ronnie Blue character. That's where I'm going next.
We'll watch for that. It's bound to be a very short scene. Danny, thank you so much as always. Wonderful. As for you, mañana at 10.
Indeed.
We're coming up to 1 o'clock this Wednesday lunchtime.